Hey, good morning. Can y'all hear me? Let me know if y'all can hear me okay. What's up, Herschel Bean, Jesse, Ford? Chris Lamb, good morning. Kyle, LaMelo Ball, good morning. Can y'all hear me okay? All right, let me turn it up a little bit. How's that? Is that better? How's that then? Can y'all hear that now? Y'all ought to be able to hear that. Let me know how that is. So what's the word? Dogs getting everybody today. Bad news for a lot of these other teams today. I think Georgia lands 5 stars this year, maybe 7. I'm gonna go with 6 though. Still a ton of 5 stars. Still low. What about now? What about now? Can you hear Uncle Lou now? Dilly dilly. Yeah, it's going to be an exciting day. So, who's up first? Who do I need to look for? And I can try to put it up on the screen for y'all. Let me see. I have a list here on my phone somewhere. Let me find it. Yeah, I got ESPN on the TV, and if anything happens, I'll show it to you. I can't just show ESPN the whole time. YouTube will shut me down. But if something happens, I'll show it to you. I've got it on SEC Network right now. Zeus is signing today with Georgia. Salyer at 10. So we need to try to find that. If it's on TV, let me know. I'll turn it to the channel and I'll turn the camera around and show you. Or I can try to find it on Facebook and show you that way. Maybe the Dog Nation page has it. I don't think James Cook's going to flip. I think he sticks with UGA, but it wouldn't be a huge loss to lose him, in my opinion. Sign and recap. I think we're getting everybody. Mad Dog, I appreciate that, sir. Thank you. I think we're getting Fields. Well, as far as the ones that people are unsure about, I think we're getting Salyer. I think we're getting Cox. I think we might even be getting Micah Parsons. If there's anybody else you want to know, ask me. I'll give you my opinion. Dog Nation Daily. All right, I'll pull that up, and then I can show it to y'all. Let me find it on Facebook, and then I can show it to you. All right, hold on a second. I'll pull it up for you. I got it pulled up, and I'm fixing to flip it so y'all can see it. Hold on just a second. All right, this is the Dog Nation guy here. Ah, damn it. I thought we might get him. Parson goes to Penn State. So we miss out on Parsons. He was 50-50 at best anyway. Can y'all hear him talking or no? And do you want to? All right, hold on.
The guy that I was just talking about, the five-star defensive end, Brenton Cox, a very similar player profile to a certain extent to Micah Parsons. We'll be able to see exactly how some of this plays out here throughout the time. Tim Tatum says not a surprise. By the way, I guess Jamari Salyer is getting ready to go here. We'll make that announcement. Let him make his announcement live from Sport and Social. And
yeah, I wasn't worried about
here
more
in just a moment. We'll go to that.
I think Georgia told him there was no room for him. I think that's why he left.
What Tim Tatum was just saying in the comment section. Maybe not a surprise that Micah Parsons chooses Penn State, given what a lot of the online chatter had been. Sometimes the late sort of news here can be false positives, and apparently the positive chatter about Parsons as of late was a false positive. Of course, as Jordy Mathis says in the comment section, come on, Jam. Obviously a reference to Jamari Salyer, who you see right there on your screen, getting ready to make his college announcement here in just a moment. That's going to be a big one for Georgia fans, one that a lot of Dog fans will definitely be crossing their finger on.
Okay, here comes the big one now.
Today on Dog Nation Daily as we cover all of this. while we wait on the Salyer situation to unfold here, and we'll be going to that just as soon
Salyer's
as
all dog. I'm going to lose my mind.
While we're waiting for that to unfold, I will remind you of another piece.
If we don't get Salyer, I'm going to lose my mind. He's been the main guy I've wanted
but this does
out of the ones that haven't committed yet. I mean, obviously, Samir White, Justin Fields are huge names, but they committed. We need the offensive lineman bad, so I'm going to it won't be good for me in terms of my reaction if we don't land Salyer.
For Georgia, what Wims has done for Georgia this year, Bush may be the kind of player that could do that for Georgia. You'll have to wait to February to find out what Tommy Bush is going to do. But Bush may have had a spot open up for him in Georgia's class today, given the fact that Elijah Moore has flipped to Ole Miss. And by the way, Ole Miss doing a pretty good job here getting Matt Corral and Elijah Moore part of the same class for a program that's decimated by NCAA issues. That's a couple pretty good offensive pieces to kind of bring into the fold there. Greg Williams says Parsons is going to be lucky to play the Dogs in the next few years in the college football playoffs. And yeah, I mean, I understand what Greg Williams is saying about that. There's always going to be some disappointment when a guy doesn't choose your school. But the truth is, geography matters here, and getting Parsons out of Pennsylvania was always going to be a tough pull for the Dogs. And by the way, Trey Hill has made it official. He is officially signed with the Georgia Bulldogs. That is a done deal for another one of the nation's top offensive guards. But it's Jamari Salyer who's the man of the hour right now. He's next up to make his commitment official, and then he'll sign his letter of intent out after that, and we'll go to him as soon as he's ready to start speaking there. Really not too far away from Pace Academy at Sport and Social, which is a sports bar at Battery, Atlanta, which is connected to SunTrust Park, where the Atlanta Braves play their baseball games. So J.C. Howell weighing in about the fact that he would like to see Tommy Bush in a Georgia uniform as the class of 2018. And this is kind of a situation that Georgia finds itself in right now, where there are a lot of fast-moving parts and a lot of preferences for fans of, hey, I wanted Bush to be a part of this class anyway. You're going to hear a lot of those opinions expressed here as Georgia tries to maximize the 24 guys they can sign right now, the 85 guys can have on the roster. Georgia's looking to do that. John Williams Adams says yay about Trey Hill, and I think that's an important thing to bring up, as a lot of times it's almost like we put on the back burner the guys that we already knew were coming to Georgia. But when Trey Hill announced his commitment a few days ago, that was a big win for the Dogs, and seeing that letter of intent become official, I do think is a big part of the bedrock that Georgia's building for its future. Obviously, the offensive line coach Sam Pittman's a big part of that, bringing in guys like Trey Hill, trying to do some work with Jamari Salyer. And speaking of Salyer, here live in Atlanta, let's check in on the Salyer situation right now as he gets ready to make his college decision. Take a look.
Help the team be successful. It's been a joy and it's been an honor. We're very blessed to have both of them. Okay, Jamari. Obviously, a big decision coming up. Without saying who, talk about why this one school you're about to pick. What was it about that school you said that's a place for me?
It's a great place for one. I know academics.
Come on, Salyer.
We agree from this place. I know I can go on and do great things. Off the field. I trust the staff. I trust great people in the town, and I'm excited to do it.
Give me your favorite. Last question of high school for you. Give me your favorite memory of playing at Pace Academy.
Oh, winning the state championship, easy. Winning the state championship was amazing. We finally got Slade to stop screaming. That was good. It was a ball. I had a great time.
Okay, I guess all these people are here not to hear me talk. I guess it's time for you. 5-star U.S. Army All-American Jamari Salyer is about to make his college decision.
Obviously, got to keep the tradition up. Before I do this, I want to thank God. Thank him every day for this opportunity. Thank my mom, my grandma, everybody up here. You all had a great impact on me, and also the Pace community. But I will continue my next 4 years of college at the University of Georgia.
Woo! Yes, sir! That's it, right? That's the one Uncle Lou wanted right there. Good morning, sir! Good morning! That's a big piece of the puzzle right there. A huge piece of the puzzle.
There you see it. The Georgia Bulldogs head on
huge.
Jamari Salyer.
That is
made
huge.
It official, the 5-star.
Boy, we need that. Look, he got the fog machine. They done broke out the smoke machine, the fog machine.
Punctuating his announcement the same way that Trey Hill.
Woo! That was a big one right there. We needed that one. We needed that one bad. Needed that one bad, bad, bad. That's a huge get for Georgia right there. Jamari Salyer, top-rated offensive guard in America in the 2018 class. That is huge, huge. You know, it's great to get all these big-name athletes like, you know, Justin Fields, Zamir White. I mean, you know, going back, Chubb, Michelle. But imagine what Chubb and Michelle could have done if UGA would have had an offensive line like we're building now. If you look at UGA's offensive line recruits since Kirby has got there over the last 2 or 3 years, you're talking about guys that are huge. You know, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 315, 330, 345. Huge, huge offensive linemen. And not just size, but ability. Highly rated guys, 5 stars, highly rated 4 stars. We saw Ben Cleveland finally get some playing time at the end of the year this year, and he looked good. This is huge news for Georgia. You've got to have the guys up front. You've got to have the guys in the trenches, especially in the SEC, where it tends to be more of a ground and pound style of play. If you look at teams like your Alabamas, always year in, year out, elite offensive and defensive lines. You can't hear me still? Oh, my God. Whew. Cade Mays is the one that might be committing with Salyer. That's good news. That is good, good news. Yeah, I turned down this idiot that's talking. He's not saying anything you need to hear. They're just drooling over Jamari Salyer. That's it. I mean, I'll turn his volume up for the commitment ceremonies or whatever, but I'm not leaving this. I'm not leaving this idiot turned up the whole time. That's just not happening. Cade Mays is not going to Tennessee, Thomas. You even know that. You're just trolling. He's not going to Tennessee. Come on. Yeah, Jamari committed to Georgia. 25 is the limit now. The NCAA has changed the rules. So it doesn't matter how many scholarships you have available. 25 is the most you can sign. Now, you can't sign 25 if it puts you over your number, but 25 is the most you can sign. So Georgia's probably going to take 23, 24, or 25, depending on what juniors leave and things like that. We'll have to wait and see.
And I will share that today. But before I do, you need to know about my first football practice with my father.
Jay Boogie, let's go. Time for your first football practice.
I'd had my first football practice at Glenwood Hills.
Tomorrow, let's go.
My dad taught me the basics. He told me to run some laps, and then he left. While I was running, I thought, was he gonna come back? He met me later with a Powerade and some Skittles. He asked me had I ever stopped running. I told him I never did. I learned about integrity that day. Integrity is what you do when no one's watching. But today, everyone will be watching.
And the SEC Country Offensive Lineman of the Year award goes to Jamari Salyer, Pace Academy.
When some guys commit, they dance around it to keep everyone guessing. That's not me. I just want to come out with it.
First of all, I'd like to thank God. Second of all, I'd like to thank my Pace Academy football family, coaches, players, both sides of the ball. You know what I'm saying? I want to tell my boy Zeus, keep his offensive guards up. We riding with him. There's one more thing I'd like to say. Any dogs out there who want to be a part of a rare breed, meaner than savages. You don't care about stars and rankings. You want to break records instead of listening to them? Come to Georgia.
That was a hell of a speech. He dropped the mic at the end.
I'm Jamari Salyer, and I'm a Georgia Bulldog. Yes, sir.
What an
I met him at the spring game last year, Jamari Salyer. He was huge. He had a baby face. I remember that about him. But a nice guy. Or kid, I guess. What did he say? If anybody wants to, if you want to break records instead of listening to them, come to the G. We getting everybody today. We getting them all. We'll probably get 6 5 stars this class. That's just unbelievable. Cade Mays, I don't think is committing until around 2:30 or 3 this afternoon. All right, let me see what y'all are arguing about down here in the comments now. I don't think James Cook has announced yet. I see somebody talking about Matt from Gainesville. He called Feinbaum again yesterday and cried about Uncle Lou. Did y'all hear that? I don't know if y'all were watching Feinbaum yesterday. I wasn't watching it. I was actually out to eat, but I got a bunch of messages, and then somebody videoed it and sent it to me. But that damn Matt from Gainesville called again into Feinbaum yesterday for the specific purpose of crying about Uncle Lou. Twice in 2 weeks that joker has called in, waited on hold for God knows how long to get on the air with Feinbaum and cry about Uncle Lou. It's just pathetic and sad. White Boy BB, what do you think about Elijah Moore? Do you think him leaving means we get Tommy Bush? It could mean that, but I don't think it necessarily does mean that. I think we told Elijah Moore there just wasn't going to be room for him in this class and sort of just told him to look elsewhere. All right, I got to go pee. I'm going to turn this idiot up and let y'all listen to him for a second, and I'll be right back.
Good morning, and thanks for being with us here on what is a busy signing day, not just for the Georgia Bulldogs, but all around the SEC. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. It's keep my head on a swivel for sure. There's a lot of news coming out of all different corners of the country, and there's a lot of new things going on with the new signing period. So it's definitely been kind of a work in progress, I feel like, for a lot of people in Alabama, and I'm sure it's been the same with you guys.
All right, so I'm not hearing Mike right now, so let me do this. Mike, if you don't mind, let me put you on pause and on hold here for a moment. We'll see if we can get my audio in, taken care of on that, so I'm able to hear you. We'll catch up with you in just a moment and try to talk about a lot of this stuff that's going to go on here. And while that's unfolding, I'll also take a second to talk to some of y'all as well. Lewis Martin in the comment section asked when Cade Mays announces. Obviously, after one 5-star offensive lineman's brought into the fold, a lot of Dog fans wonder when the next one will be coming in. Cade Mays is one of those guys who will be making his announcement later on today. It's going to be sometime around 2:30 p.m. In fact, we'll show you in just a moment the kind of the graphic that we showed you earlier that gives you a full schedule of kind of when some of these big names are set to go a little later on today. Cade Mays, though, the 5-star guard from Knoxville, Tennessee, he is expected to go around 2:30 p.m. today, so we'll look forward to hearing on that. Michael Morrow says he was hearing Mike Johnson just fine. Yeah, the issue is not on y'all's end. The issue is on my end. So what I'm going to do here is get ready to listen to Mike, and we'll get ready to have him on the program here today, because I do want to get Mike's thoughts on Jamari Salyer, what he likes about him as a player. So let me shift gears here with a slightly different pair of headphones and get ready to move on that discussion. Ken Wilkes asked the question about Tommy Bush. Any chance Georgia adds that wide receiver to the mix? Obviously on the heels of losing Elijah Moore. Moore goes to Ole Miss. I think the thought and the common opinion here is that Moore's departure means it may likely be a yes for Tommy Bush. The one drawback to that, though, is it will be February before Bush becomes officially a member of the class. All right, we got Mike Johnson ready to roll here. I should be able to hear him just fine now. Mike, are you with me? How you doing?
Hey, B.A., you got me, brother? Can you hear me?
All right. Let me hold on one more second. We'll get one more thing squared away on this, and we'll get this ready to go and ready to kind of unfold. Tom Gross says he thinks that Cade May is going to be a tackle wherever he plays in college. I know there's been some debate about that. You know, it does seem like there's a chance that Mays could be a right tackle. There also seems to be, you know, some thought that maybe at a place like Georgia, he could slide in, play one of those guard positions. He's obviously, you know, the kind of guy that could dominate in that spot. So, you know, that's kind of the thought there on Cade Mays. Royal Blue, going back to Parsons here just for a moment, says Parsons is a great player, but maybe not a UGA-style athlete. Good luck, though. And that's the thing. I mean, I think what Royal says there is the appropriate thing to bring up, that from time to time, guys are going to choose another school. It could be Cade Mays later on today. Now, Georgia won with Jamari Salyer right there, lost with Micah Parsons, may win or lose with Cade Mays, and ultimately, what I like about our audience here on Dog Nation Daily is that for the most part, these moments are treated as, let's wish these guys well. They made the choice they thought was right for them, and Georgia's got really very little to sweat here, because no matter who says yes, who says no, the collection of yeses in terms of elite primetime players is going to far outweigh the no's, and ultimately Georgia's going to put together a very good class. Almost for sure, I'm going to be able to hear Mike Johnson when he speaks now. So, Mike, let me say one more time, good morning. Thanks for being with us. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Can you hear me? Take 3.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. I know the Dog Nation is being heard all around college football right now as well after the announcement a moment ago from the 5-star offensive lineman Jamari Salyer, who makes it official, nation's #1 offensive guard. Mike, as you know, a lot of Georgia fans also have their fingers crossed for Cade Mays, another 5-star offensive lineman going on later on today. But let me start with Salyer here for a moment. You obviously understand the offensive line position. You know how crucial it was to the success of the Alabama teams that you played for. What do you think about the fact that Georgia, and the work done in 2016, bringing in Ben Cleveland and Solomon Kinley, the work done in 2017, bringing in guys like Andrew Thomas, who started virtually all year for Georgia this season, and now adding Jamari Salyer to go along with Trey Hill for the class of 2018. What do you make of the work that Sam Pittman, the line coach, and Kirby Smart are doing in terms of bringing in elite offensive line prospects here to Georgia?
I think it starts to become almost scary for the rest of the SEC East and the rest of the SEC. I mean, I think it's crazy when you get the combination of recruiting mixed up with development. You can develop a team, in a lot of different ways, like Kirby Smart has done at Georgia for this year. You can develop a team into a championship team for 1 year. When you start recruiting guys, especially in the trenches, and a guy like Jamari Salyer, the way they've been recruiting for the last couple of years, then all of a sudden you're looking at transferring this thing into a dynasty. It becomes not a one-hit wonder. All of a sudden, you become good for 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. You become good on the interior. Become good at the running back position. You become good rushing the passer. I love the way Kirby Smart has been trying to build this team, and you're starting to see, pen to paper with some of these guys hopping on board once again.
And then, one of the things we talked about with Salyer before you came on is, this guy that goes to Pace Academy. That's one of the elite academic institutions, not just in Georgia, all of the South. His teammate Andrew Thomas has been praised. His high school teammate, soon-to-be future college teammate, has been praised by Kirby Smart for his maturity. I mean, as a guy that played, this offensive line position, how much is that sort of, emotional maturity and overall intelligence? I mean, how much does that sort of aid in your attempt to try to play early? Obviously, offensive line is probably underrated as a cerebral position. You got to know a lot of stuff and know how a lot of these parts fit in together to be able to play that position. When you bring in a guy who's well-trained by a coach in Chris Slade, educated like you get at Pace Academy, I mean, how much does that help Salyer with what he wants to do in the future?
It helps tenfold, BA. I mean, it really does when you talk about a guy of his age, but his stature coming in and trying to make his mark right away on this Georgia program and become a fixture on this offensive line. You have to be able to not only learn your plays and learn what are the audibles, but you have to be able to think. You know, it's not like sitting down and taking a multiple choice test. I mean, there's people running at you, hitting you in the mouth. You're having to chain within 5 seconds. You're having to communicate to the guys on either side of you. You're having to communicate with the quarterbacks and the running backs, and really make changes to a game plan on a whim. Make changes to a game plan within seconds to think. And anytime you get a guy like that really has a good head on their shoulders, that has been a good student athlete, and is coming to a place like Georgia, I think it helps tremendously. You're going to have to get in, obviously, and get your grades accounted for. You know, it's tough as a freshman. You have all these freshman classes you're going to take. You're going to study halls. Anytime you're doing that, it's tough. But you add football into it, and you need a guy like Jamari Salyer, the head on his shoulders, and obviously, Kirby Smart's impressed with his work ethic. I think it helps tenfold for him coming in next year.
Artis Medford, who's watching the comment section, asked a question that I think is kind of an interesting one. You know, Salyer is a guy that can play guard, may play center. Trey Hill is a guy who just made it official with his own signature a moment ago and committed to Georgia a few days ago. He's a guy that could.
All right, I'm turning that clown back off for a minute. I turn him up. They start talking about anything we need to listen to. But so far, so good. I would have liked to have got Micah Parsons, but people were pretty sure he was going to Penn State, so it is what it is there. We got Jamari Salyer. All the guys that had already committed to UGA, they're sticking around. They're not going anywhere. So Justin Fields, all dog. Zamir White, all dog. James Cook, been flirting with Florida State the last couple of weeks. I still think he ends up signing with the UGA, but it would not be a huge loss, in my opinion, to lose James Cook. We're loaded at the running back position. And if we're going to lose any of our big-name recruits this cycle, James Cook would be one that I could live with, I think. Yeah, I had to let the dogs out, too, and then let them back in. So, yeah. Let's see. Cade May is announcing around 2:30 or 3 this afternoon. I think he's all dog. I think he picks UGA. Clemson is a possibility with him, but I think we end up landing him. Who remembers what happened when Aubrey Solomon didn't commit to Georgia and chose Michigan? How many of y'all were around to see Uncle Lou's reaction to that one? Remember that one from the 2017 class, Aubrey Solomon? That was my big disappointment for the 2017 class. I really wanted him, and I went absolutely nuts when we lost him. How many of y'all remember that one? Demetrius Robertson was another one from the 2016 class. They said James Cook's getting ready to announce coming up in the next 30 minutes or so. So when they get to that, I'll turn this idiot's volume back up for you.
I'm not only going to further my academic
Oh,
career.
come on, please. UGA! No! No! What are you doing? Oh my God, no! What are you doing? Aubrey Solomon, listen to me. Listen. People be telling me, Uncle Lou, let go. Let go. He's not coming to UGA. He's not. I said, no, he's coming to UGA. He's a savage. He's going to put up for his hometown team. No, you want to go to, why? You want to go play in the car? Fine. Go to Michigan. Great. Have a great time playing football in the world's largest outdoor refrigerator. What are you, Jim Harbaugh? Really? Is this what you want? Here. Aubrey Solomon. Is this you want one of Jim Harbaugh's stupid spend the night parties? Huh? Hey, I'm Jim Harbaugh. Come to my house. Have a spend the night party. Oh my God. I get all these high school kids over to my house. We'll put our pajamas on and have a freaking spend the night party. Oh, that's great. Great job. Great job. Enjoy yourself up there in Michigan.
I wonder if Aubrey Solomon ever saw that. Oh my God. Wow. Some of y'all hadn't seen that, probably. Lewis says Aubrey Solomon turned down the Tennessee job. Everybody turned down the Tennessee job. Y'all want to watch, y'all want me to put SEC Nation on for a few minutes and we can watch some of these talking heads talk about some of the other SEC teams, not just Georgia? Y'all want to watch that for a little bit? I can put that on. Put some meat on my butt. Well, black makes you look thinner than you really are. But I mean, I'm the same height and the same weight as Floyd Money Mayweather, and we have the same record. Woo! All right, I won't show that then. They're talking about basketball right now anyway. Georgia beat Georgia Tech last night, by the way, in basketball. Wasn't even close. Beat them by, what was it, 21 or something like that. Never even a game. Georgia led the whole way. Just completely dominated the North Avenue Nerds without a problem. Yeah, Georgia off to a pretty good start in basketball. About 8-2, I think they are. Lost to UMass and San Diego State, I believe, are their two losses. But we're getting ready to start SEC play now. Got Kentucky coming up here pretty soon. So we'll see what Georgia's made of if they can finally make the NCAA tourney again. Mark Fox been there 9 years. Huge disappointment as far as I'm concerned with Mark Fox. I thought he should have been fired last year after failing to make the NCAA tournament. The guy's been there 9 years, yet to win a single NCAA tournament game. That's just embarrassing and sad. I don't expect Georgia to be making the Final Four or anything like that in basketball. But 68 teams, isn't that right, make the NCAA tournament? Georgia should at least be good enough to make the tournament and get a win every 2 or 3 years. I don't think that's too much to ask. I don't think that's me having unreal expectations or anything like that. I think Georgia should be able to make the NCAA tournament and get a win or two at least once every 2 or 3 years. Mark Fox been there going on a decade, not a single tournament win. if he doesn't make it this year, they really should run the guy out on the rail. He's got the preseason player of the year, Yonty Mayton, all kinds of starters back from last year. There's really no excuse for Georgia not making the NCAA tournament this year. And, I mean, it's way past time. Am I wrong? Yeah, I know not as many people care about basketball as football, and I don't love basketball nearly the way I do football. But I still root for the Dogs. I still keep up with college basketball to the extent that I can. I mean, there's just so many games, and a lot of them are just completely meaningless. You know, I watch the NCAA tournament and the SEC tournament every year. I don't watch every Georgia basketball game, though. But if there's a big one on the weekend, I'll watch it. Or like last night, I watched most of the Georgia Tech game. So I keep up with it the best I can, but I devote most of my time year-round to college football. There is no off-season in college football. It's year-round. Ole Miss didn't take that Georgia wide receiver. Georgia told that wide receiver there wasn't going to be room for him, that he needed to look elsewhere. So even though Ole Miss is on probation with sanctions and all that kind of stuff, it's not a bad place for a wide receiver to go. They run a wide-open offense. You know, they've had success, Ole Miss has, with putting wide receivers in the NFL. They throw the ball around. I don't blame Elijah Moore for going there. After he was told that there wasn't room for him at UGA. If Florida, Dan Mullen has really screwed up here. He never had a chance with Justin Fields. I really don't know why he wasted his time, and all he really managed to do was run Matt Corral off. Now, Florida fans think they have a shot to get that Florida State commit now. Emory Jones, is that his name? A top 3 or 4 dual threat quarterback for 2018. He's been committed to Ohio State forever. I don't really understand why he would flip from Florida State to Florida. He's got a chance to go to Ohio State. Barrett is leaving, so he's got an opportunity to come in and get some playing time right away at Ohio State. Urban Meyer has proven that he can win on the big stage. As much as I hate him, he's had success with mobile dual-threat quarterbacks, both in the SEC and now again in the Big Ten. I don't understand why anybody, Justin Fields, Emory Jones, or anybody else, would flip their commitment right now from a big-time school, Georgia, Ohio State, whoever, to go to an unknown at Florida, coming off, they win 4 games. Didn't make a bowl game. Dan Mullen, first-year head coach. You don't really know what you're going to get there. Dan Mullen has really screwed up if he ran Matt Corral off and now fails to land any other big-time quarterback. I'm going to turn this other guy up for a second. They're talking about James Cook, okay?
There on that front. I believe that Cook is eventually going to be a Georgia Bulldog, whether the signing comes in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or the next half hour. I think it's all dog for James Cook. By the way, I'll continue the rehash here in a moment, but as I am saying that, there is some big news that does come to the Georgia Bulldogs here on this start of the early signing period. Georgia has added an elite defensive back as 4-star cornerback Devod Wilson. At one point a Florida commit, decommitted from Florida, and now here at the beginning of early signing period has committed to the University of Georgia.
So Georgia still
signing
Devod Wilson
there as
from
well.
Florida.
Georgia adding a good-looking defensive back in Devod Wilson here. Another one of those another one of those names to celebrate for Georgia fans as it's adding big-time guys here on the day that early signing period begins. Not just finishing up with guys who had been in the fold, but adding some new guys as well. And listen, y'all know the way we roll here on Dog Nation Daily. It is always fun to be able to not just add a player to Georgia, but take one from Florida. And this is a This is a loss for the Gators, a win for Georgia, and a pretty good-looking player here as Davad Wilson into the fold here for Georgia in the class of 2018. So that's a big-time piece of good news for the Georgia Bulldogs. We'll keep that up. Bo Gilbert says, "Were y'all watching these commits?" Listen, I'm going to continue to unfold these and give them to you as they come out here throughout the day here. So Davad Wilson in the fold here for Georgia. Philip Jordan Wells says, "BA, keep up." Here's the thing. Like, it takes a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes for news to actually travel into the room where I am. You know, I see some of y'all put in the comment section about it, but, you know, we've got a whole team of folks around us here at our Dog Nation World headquarters to bring me the news when it happens. So I may be a couple seconds behind y'all, but I'll get there eventually with a lot of this big news, including Davad Wilson. I love to see the excitement about Wilson in the comment section. Love it, Van Bird says. Who says, "Welcome to the dog family, Davad." That's also a name, by the way, that Chris Smith was talking about last night. He was with us at the Marlowe's Emory Point for our countdown to signing day event. I'm actually going to share some of the audio from Smith on the show here later on this week. I really liked a lot of what Smith had to say. He really won that crowd over last night in a big way, and one of the names that he was excited about was Davad Wilson. It goes back to what we were just talking about with Mike Johnson a moment ago. Very good players want to play with other very good players. These elite guys want to team up with each other, and it seems that Smith and Davad Wilson, what is it they call it, the League of Shadows there with those Georgia defensive backs, it seems like they got the idea of kind of forming their own sort of mini super team as a position group, and I think Wilson's a terrific ad there. Derek Lucas talking about Chris Smith being funny, and he really is a funny guy. Really great personality on that young man who seems to be enjoying all of this the way that you want him to. And, you know, that's always been my thought on this. Most of us don't really know what it feels like to ever have a chance to play big-time college football. I can't even imagine from a mental standpoint what it must be like to realize that you're going to go and play on this gigantic stage and have guys like me sort of obsessing over every move that you make.
So Davad Wilson, four-star cornerback, chooses Georgia. He was a Florida commit. And this is a pretty big deal because Florida over the last 5 or 6 years has a history of signing, developing, and putting into the NFL elite defensive backs, corners, and safeties. If you look at Florida's defense over the last 4 or 5 years, of course, everybody knows they've had an elite defense, especially under Will Muschamp. I mean, just loaded with NFL talent. But their backfield was just unbelievable, their defensive backfield. I mean, every single year they were putting safeties and corners into the NFL first and second round picks. Falcons got one this past draft in Keanu Neal. But they just had some complete studs back there. So the fact that Florida had you know, set their sights on this guy and got him to commit, and Georgia was able to come in to steal him, good news for the Dogs. We lose a lot of talent in the defensive backfield this year. Now we've got some young guys ready to step in. You know, D'Angelo Gibbs. Speaking of D'Angelo, well, I'll get back to him in a second. Richard LeCount, Breeny, Speed. You know, we've got Mark Webb. We've moved to defensive back. So we've got some guys, but it's always good to load up on playmakers in the defensive backfield. Shutdown corners are hard to find. Elite safeties are hard to find. So the more of these big-name 4- and 5-star guys we can get in the defensive backfield, the better off we'll be. But what's up with D'Angelo Gibbs? Has anybody heard anything about D'Angelo Gibbs? I have heard that he's been missing, basically, for the last 2 weeks or so. Not missing as in, like, no one can find him, but that he hasn't been at practice and hasn't been around UGA or the football program for about 2 weeks or so. I don't have any other details or information other than that, but wondering if any of y'all have heard that or might know anything more about that. He was one of our big-time recruits from last year's class, 2017 class. Didn't get a whole lot of playing time this year, but that was to be expected, a true freshman coming in. And like I said, we're losing a lot of defensive talent this year, which means we have a lot of juniors and seniors returning, that return to this year. So I'm not sure if it's a situation where he's upset with playing time. I mean, he should have known coming in he wasn't going to get a whole lot of playing time this year with the returners that we had in the backfield. So I'm not sure what it is, but wondering if any of y'all have heard anything on that with D'Angelo Gibbs. I've been looking for more information since I heard about this last night, and I can't find anything on it anywhere. But kind of curious what's going on there with Gibbs. He is back, and he practiced yesterday. Oh, thank you, Trey. Any idea what was going on? Was it a medical issue? Was he sick? Has health issues? Nothing's okay. Good. Okay. All right. Well, false alarm then. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm a cynic. Maybe I'm just used to bad news. I don't know. But when I heard that yesterday, I was like, oh God, you know, here we go again, type of thing. But it looks like everything's okay, so that's good. If it was just some sort of health issue, and that's good news. Mullen fired. Hey, look, listen. You know here's what's funny about the Dan Mullen thing, right? When Florida hired Mullen, I told these Gators, I was like, I don't think this is a good hire. Look at his record at Mississippi State. He didn't really do anything there. Never beat any 9 or 10 win teams. Was terrible on the road. I went through all these things. Worst record in polling history against top teams. And Florida fans said the same thing. Well, yeah, but that's at Mississippi State. You can't recruit at Mississippi State like you can at Florida. When he's at Florida, he'll be able to recruit elite talent, blah, blah, blah. Well, since he's got to Florida, what has he done? He's ran off 2 or 3 of their highest-rated commits, right? Matt Corral. We just got Devod Wilson. They lost another guy last week. It was a 4-star wide receiver, right? And as far as I can tell, as far as from anywhere I can find, he's only got 2 people to commit since he's been named coach, and they're both 3 stars. So you've ran off your highest-rated recruit, Matt Corral, and 2 other 4-star recruits, and you've got commits from 3, or from 2 3-star recruits. Florida's a sinking ship, and it looks like some of these recruits are starting to see that, and it's man overboard in Gainesville. All right, y'all see this? Justin Fields at noon, Chris Smith at noon. I missed the other 3. I see some people talking about Eason in the comments section and saying he never got a chance this year. Anybody that's been following Uncle Lou for any amount of time at all knows that I was a huge Eason supporter. Even after the injury, I felt like Eason would be given an opportunity to start once he got all the way healthy. But once you got to 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, and then I think what sealed it was the win at Florida, there was just no way Kirby could make a change at the quarterback position. It became impossible at that point. Had he made a change after we were 8 or 9-0 and just destroyed Florida and something went wrong. Look at the Auburn game, for example. We got absolutely destroyed, right, by Auburn, at Auburn. If Eason had gotten the start against Auburn and things went the same way, Kirby would have been crucified. I mean, absolutely crucified. Now, we all know that that loss wasn't solely on Jake Fromm, right? You watched the game. We couldn't do anything right in that game, from penalties to piss poor game plan to terrible offensive line play. The defensive line got pushed around. I mean, it was just a terrible game all the way around. But can you imagine if Eason had been given the start for that game and things went the way they did? Kirby would have been crucified. It would have all been blamed on Eason and by proxy, Kirby, for making the decision to start Eason. I just think it got to the point when we were undefeated at a certain point in the season and ranked #1 in America that it just gets to the point where you're like, okay, we can't make a change now. I feel like he just, there was nothing he could do. I do feel bad for Eason that things went the way it did. I think he has all the talent in the world, and I never like to see anybody transfer away from UGA, but I would not be mad at Jacob Eason at all if he transferred. I feel like he deserves an opportunity to have a chance to play somewhere, and at this point, barring injury, he's just not going to get that opportunity at Georgia. This is Jake Fromm's team now, and Jake Fromm has earned it. So I'm in no way knocking Jake Fromm at all. Fromm far exceeded any expectations I had for him or any true freshman quarterback at UGA, far and away. Did I get upset and overreact a few times this season in regards to Jake Fromm? Of course I did. But, I mean, that's just sort of what I do. Fan is short for fanatic, so I tend to overreact sometimes. Do I wish Fromm had been given more opportunities to pass and some blowouts earlier in the season? Yeah. Do I feel like he stares down receivers a little bit? Yeah. A lot of freshmen do that. I could not be happier with the way Fromm played. So anything I say about Eason should not be taken as a negative against Fromm. I'm blown away by what Fromm's done this year. I still can't believe it. But I can't be mad at Eason if he decides to transfer. I just can't. I feel like he deserves an opportunity to start somewhere. And I honestly believe he will transfer probably in January. We'll announce that in January would be my guess there. As far as where, I don't know. I thought maybe Michigan, but they already got a transfer. They got Shea Patterson, right, from Ole Miss. So maybe back to the West Coast. He's from there. He's from the state of Washington. So you got Josh Rosen at UCLA. Does he go pro and maybe Eason transfers there? I don't know. Now Eason will have to sit out a year, obviously, wherever he goes. But, you know, Southern Cal, we're losing Sam Darnold potentially. UCLA, Washington, you know, they have Jake Browning, who they'll be losing, if not this year, next year. So I don't know. One of the Arizona schools maybe. Was it Arizona State just hired Herm Edwards, which is a head-scratching hire, by the way. I don't understand that. You think the Tennessee hire was bad. What in the world is Arizona State thinking hiring an 80-year-old Herm Edwards? I don't know. That's not going to work out well, though. But anyway, I wouldn't blame Easton at all if he transfers, and I fully expect that to happen. But UJ's in good shape at the quarterback position if we land Justin Fields, which we are. If Easton transfers, we're looking at Fromm as being our only scholarship quarterback. A couple of walk-ons, right? Stetson Bennett. But if Easton transfers, that leaves Fromm as the only scholarship quarterback. So we definitely need an elite quarterback, which is why it became so important that we landed Justin Fields after we basically told Matt Corral we didn't want him. Matt Corral was ready to sign with UGA back in July. We told him to hold off because, I don't know what reason we gave him, but the real reason is because we were chasing after Justin Fields. We ended up getting Fields, or Fields ended up committing. So far that's worked out good. But that was a gamble that Kirby played there to basically tell Corral to hold off a highly rated recruit in hopes of getting Justin Fields. And it looks like it's worked out. A plan that did not work out for Dan Mullen when he ran Matt Corral off and then did not land Justin Fields, and I seriously doubt he's going to get Emory Jones either. Paul Warren says Tennessee will bounce back. Yep, at some point they will. They've been attempting to bounce back since 2008. One step forward, two steps back. You're 0-8 in conference for the first time in history. Hashtag blame Dooley is dead. Now it's blame Lyle. Fast forward to the year 2021, hashtag blame Pruitt. I mean, at some point you just have to come to the realization it might not be the coaches, it might be the program, I mean, they're blaming everybody now, right? They're blaming their old athletic director Curry, right? It's all his fault. They couldn't hire a coach for a month or whatever. It's all his fault. They're blaming Jim Haslam, which is their biggest booster and donor, that idiot that owns the Cleveland Browns, right? How fitting is it that the Tennessee Vols' biggest donor, biggest booster is the owner of the Cleveland Browns, right? Tennessee Vols, the Cleveland Browns of college football. 0-8 in the SEC for your first time in history. Y'all got a long way to go, man. A long way to go.
For next season, Jaden Hazelwood, and I mean I say this all the time, you know, I'm much more of a fan than I am a scout, but you watch Hazelwood on film. First of all, this guy really runs and jumps and catches. He also lays the lumber when he's blocking. He had a block in a game class this season that was, I mean, it was like a double down the line. It was a smack. He's a physical receiver, a really good-looking guy, nation's #1 prospect at that spot. And then Dominic Blaylock, who we had Dom on from our Marlowe's and Roswell show 2 weeks ago. So when you've got those two guys who project as, you know, the true outside threat receivers, you know, sort of game-breaking, you know, sort of putting some space between themselves and defensive backs, when you've got those guys in there, that's going to take your priority away from the, you know, the same type of player in 2018. You're just getting better guys in 2019 you're going to get in 2018. I think what the Georgia priority was in 2018 was to sort of fill that kind of, you know, slot position receiver, that guy that can kind of come in and do some of that kind of stuff, maybe a slightly bigger version of what Isaiah McKenzie was for Georgia. And then, you know, that's, I believe, what the role that Kearis Jackson's going to play for the Dogs here. I think that Kearis kind of actually fills that spot here for Georgia this season. If you look, most of the other receivers that Georgia was kind of considering and flirting with were guys that were kind of also in that Kearis mold. I'm thinking about, you know, Josh Vann, who ends up signing with South Carolina. But some of the names that you heard there in that spot were those kinds of players. And Kirby even alluded to that.
The top two wide receivers in the 2019 class are both committed
Kirby
to Georgia.
Makes a little bit of a tradition.
We'll see if that sticks or not.
I say tradition. He's been in Georgia now for two signing days, so I don't know how much of a full-fledged tradition this is. But he'll mention in the press conference what he wants to work on the following.
James Cook, UGA. So, I mean, that's good news. For those of you who weren't watching earlier, I talked a little bit about James Cook. Look, a great player. There was some talk over the last week or two that he may be wavering on his commitment to Georgia. He's been flirting with Florida State the last couple of weeks, and I made the comment on here. I've made it on Facebook and Twitter and a couple of videos too. If we were going to lose one of the big-name guys from this class, James Cook would be the one I'd be least mad about. Not because I don't like him, not because I don't think he's a good player or an elite player or has a ton of potential, but because we're just loaded at the running back position. So if we're going to lose any of our big-name guys, I said, well, let it be James Cook. You know, I feel like we can live with that. We can live with only signing one elite running back this year after signing just, you know, elite running back after elite running back year after year. But James Cook ends up committing to UGA. Great news for Georgia. The question now is going to become for Georgia, as we talked about Easton transferring a little while ago, the question is going to become, what do Brian Herrien and Elijah Holyfield do? Do they both stay at UGA? I want to keep them. A lot of people are really, really high on Elijah Holyfield. Oh, shoot. Hold on. Hold on a second. I hit the wrong button and took that thing off the screen. So just hold on. Just give me just a second. And I'll fix it. But a lot of people were really, really high on Elijah Holyfield, even this year. I tend to be more of a Brian Herrien fan. And it's nothing against Elijah Holyfield. Nothing at all against Elijah Holyfield. But I've been real high on Herrien. You keep getting all these elite running backs year after year after year, and you just wonder, are they all going to stick around? We've been lucky. You know, we kept Gurley and Marshall together for 4 years. We kept Sony and Chubb together for the 4 years. Last year, really, we only signed one elite running back in DeAndre Swift, so nothing really to worry about with that. Then this year, you're looking at, of course, Zeus and now James Cook coming in. They're both elite running backs. So if you look on UJ's roster heading into next year at the running back position, and you start saying, okay, who do we have here? Well, you've got, of course, DeAndre Swift coming back next year. We're losing Sony and Chubb, obviously. So you've got Swift coming back. You've got Herring and Holyfield still on the roster. But then coming in, you've got running backs that are way more highly rated than either Elijah Holyfield or Brian Herring were in Zeus and James Cook, particularly Zeus. There's a lot of people who are not going to be a one-bit surprised if Zamir White is a starting running back next year, if his knee rehabs in time. But Swift, Zeus, Cook, Harry, and Holyfield, you just wonder if UGA is going to be able to hold on to all of those guys. I'm trying to find this video that I accidentally closed out of. Hold on. Can't believe I closed out of that video. I gotta find it now. Where is it? Hold on, I'll find it. Don't go nowhere. Here it is. All right, so I got this Jamoke back on for you now. So what do y'all think? Will we lose any of the running backs that we already have? Will we lose Harrion or Holyfield? Who's better? Who do you like more, Harrion or Holyfield? If we were going to lose one of those two to transfer, who could you live with losing, Harrion or Holyfield? Yeah, I tend to think Swift will be the starter next year too. Now, I do think Zamir will play a lot, especially if he's healthy and his knee gets better. DeAndre Swift is second in the Heisman odds right now for next season. Now, I think that's completely ridiculous. I don't understand that personally. If you've watched UJ at all over the last couple of years, then I really don't know what you've seen that makes you think any UGA running back is going to come anywhere close to winning a Heisman Trophy. And it's got nothing to do with talent. It's got to do with game plan and the amount of elite running backs that we have. I mean, you look at Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. They're two of the best running backs in America. They're running the ball 11 and 12 times a game, right? Running backs that win the Heisman are running the ball 25 and 30 times a game. You can go back and look at Derrick Henry. Look at the guys who were getting consideration for the Heisman this year at the running back position. Bryce Love. He was Stanford's only player, the only running back, but really their only good player. You look at Saquon Barkley at Penn State. He was their only good running back, and on top of that, he caught passes, he returned punts, and he returned kickoffs on top of that. So I don't really understand the hype for DeAndre Swift for Heisman for next year, even though I think he's an amazing running back. I mean, he reminds me of Barry Sanders when you watch him play. I'm not saying he's as good as Barry Sanders. I'm saying the style of player that he is. I mean, he's got every video game move in the book, right? All the spin moves, the juke moves, the run over you, run around you. I mean, he's just really, really fun and exciting to watch. Him and McCole Hardman are probably the two most exciting players to watch right now for UGA, and they'll both be around for another couple of years. I mean, it's going to be exciting to watch those two over the next couple of seasons. I could watch that Jamari Salyer mic drop 100 times. That was something serious right there. I agree with you, Matt, from Gainesville. I have said the same thing, and a lot of people have jumped on me about it. And I get it. You don't redshirt elite running backs. Look, I completely understand that. One of the biggest mistakes Mark Richt ever made was redshirting Noshawn Moreno in, 2005 or 2006? Because we only got 2 years out of him after that, right? He lit it up for 2 years and he was gone. So generally speaking, you do not even consider redshirting elite running backs like Zamir White. But if he's not 100% healthy with that knee, there is no reason to play him. We are loaded at the running back position. And Zeus may be the best running back on Georgia's team next year. That may be true. But that doesn't mean we should play him unless he is, without question, 100% healthy. And so I don't know if that means a full red shirt for next year, sitting him out the first 6 games. I don't know what that means. And I think, really, none of us really know what sort of rehab or time frame we're looking at here with Zamir White. Now, I know he was walking around on it after the injury without crutches. He didn't appear to be in too much pain. I've heard from some people that claim the tear is not that bad. And I didn't screw anything up. They took the video off the air. We'll see if they load it back up here in a second. Nope, it says their live video has ended. So hold on a second. I'll see if they pull up another one. But I'm with you, Matt, from Gainesville. If he's not 100% healthy, he 100% needs to sit out or redshirt or whatever. I don't think UGA is going to be any worse next year if Zamir White sits out than we would be if he plays. I don't think like I said, we're just loaded at the running back position. I don't see any benefit in taking a chance or a risk on playing him if we don't absolutely have to. With that being said, if he's healthy and ready to go, I'm all for him playing. I'm all for him playing. But if he's 80%, 90%, I think they should sit him out. Look at Chubb last year compared to this year. Chubb played last year at 75, 80, 85%, whatever you want to say, with his knee. He was not 100%. Anyone that watched Chubb play before his injury and then this year can tell you and would have to agree that he was not 100% healthy. Now let me see if these morons are gonna start another live feed. I don't know why they ended that one. Let's see if they start a new one. If not, I'll find something else for us to watch. They hadn't started another one yet. I'm sure they'll start one at some point, and I'll play it for you. But in the meantime, who remembers Demetrius Robertson?
You know, I can't let it go. I can't let this go. I gotta make another one. Now, listen here, D-Rob. Listen to me. Listen. Now, I was your friend, sir. I supported you. I stuck up for you against these other UGA fans who were tired of your games. So, talking about we didn't need you and we didn't want you. I stood up for you. Now you owe Uncle Lou. Look at this vein in my neck, sir. I just ate an entire month's worth of blood pressure pills because of you. It's only May 1st and now I'm screwed till June 1st. I'm eating these things like Tic Tacs. I look like a freed hostage at a water fountain. And one more thing. One more thing, Mr. Robertson. Mr. Robertson's neighborhood. One more thing for you, Demetrius. Sir, you better be glad you got out of the SEC. You better be glad you got out of the SEC. How are you supposed to beat SEC level coverage when you couldn't even beat that cow picture out of the sheet that was covering it? What were you doing? You had 3 months from February till today to figure out this announcement, what a circus, whatever this was, and you couldn't even beat the coverage that the sheet was giving that cow picture. And then when you finally got the sheet off, the picture was upside down. No wonder you couldn't get into Stanford. You can't even set a picture right side up. What? Good riddance.
Oh, boy. Yeah, Matty Ice. Matt from Gainesville called Paul Feinbaum again yesterday to cry about Uncle Lou. Uncle Lou's not a real fan. Blah, blah, blah. I don't know why this guy... I don't know who this guy is. Keeps calling into Feinbaum and complaining about Uncle Lou not being a real fan because I don't go to enough games. That's his whole argument. That's it. That's his only gripe or whatever. But he's so ate up with Uncle Lou that twice in 2 weeks now, this guy has called into the Feinbaum show, waited on hold for God knows how long, just to get on the air to tell Paul Feinbaum that Uncle Lou isn't a real fan because he doesn't go to enough games. I don't understand. I don't really care who goes to what game or how many games someone goes to. And then the other thing he said yesterday is, nobody even knows who Uncle Lou is. Well, hello, you know, because you're calling up a national TV show to cry about him, sir. So I think that's a little bit of a exaggeration to say that nobody knows who Uncle Lou is. I mean, how can you say that on a national TV show? You obviously know. You're talking about him, right? I don't know. This guy's just completely ate up. Uncle Lou, living in this guy's mind, rent-free. Good news is there's plenty of room in there. He ain't the brightest bulb, not the sharpest tool in the shed. What else did he tell? Oh, told Paul he would give me Rose Bowl tickets if I wanted to go to the game or whatever. I don't know. I didn't see it. A bunch of people messaged me, and, oh, that guy's on Feinbaum again. I was out to eat, so I didn't see it. But I don't understand. I don't get it. Zeus has not signed yet that I know of, that I've heard. Let me see what the hell. I don't know what happened to this live feed on Dog Nation. It just went black. And I don't think they haven't. I don't see a new one up. Let me see if I can find. Let me see if I can find something else. $11:45 for Zeus. Is that what you're saying, Will? Zeus signing at 11:45. I did acknowledge the guy that gave $2. I thanked him as soon as unless there was another one that I didn't see. But I thanked the guy who who donated the $2 earlier. Volume for what? What do you want volume of? I still don't see another video up. I don't know if UJ can finish #1 or not. It's going to be hard to pass Ohio State. If Florida somehow steals Emory Jones from, is that his last name, Jones? I think it is, from Ohio State. Maybe we pass Ohio State, but I don't know. I just don't see it happening. But I do think Trey Pickett, thank you, sir. But I mean, we're definitely finishing top 3. 3 is, I mean, 3 would be the worst, right, case scenario, I think, as far as Georgia finishing this year. And next year's class, I think, could be better. I think Georgia has a legitimate shot to finish with the #1 class next year. But anytime you're in the top 5, really, you're signing a lot of elite talent. Y'all are killing me with this turn up the volume. I don't get it. I'm going to turn this on my phone right now, and I'm going to check the volume and see. And if I can't hear it, then I'll turn it up. Because I keep turning it up, and then people say turn it down. So it's hard for me to tell. So you might just be messing with me. I don't know. I hear it fine, the playback. If I can't hear it, then I'll turn it up. Because I keep turning it up, and then people say turn it down. So it's hard for me. So I don't know. I think it's loud enough though. If I turn it up, then half the people say to turn it down. So I mean, I guess I'll turn it up a little bit more. That's about it though. It's a little low, Lou. You're echoing, Lou. It's too loud, Lou. Turn it up, Lou. Turn it down, Lou. Georgia getting everybody. I mean, this is really coming together to be a great class for Georgia. Wasn't Miami sitting at the #2 ranked class heading into today? So I wonder what they're doing today. Who have they signed everybody that they had committed? Have they lost anybody? Have they flipped anybody that they didn't have? I wonder what's going on with them. I haven't checked on them, but maybe I need to. I don't know. The trolls are winning. The trolls stay winning. To be honest. So yeah. But thanks to everybody that's watching. We're gonna run this all day. Now YouTube has a 4-hour limit on streaming, so at some point I'm gonna have to stop this stream and then start a new one probably for the afternoon. So we started streaming around 9:45, so 4 hours from that is what, 1:45. So we'll have to shut it down. I'll probably shut it down around 1 o'clock or something like that, but then I'll immediately start another one right back up, and that's just because YouTube limits the streams to 4 hours is why I'll have to do that. So, yeah. Tomorrow night I'm streaming NCAA football again on the Xbox. It seems like most people want to see Clemson and Alabama, so I'll stream that game. I haven't decided yet who I'm going to be. I'll either be Clemson or Alabama. I'm not just going to sit at both the computer and watch them play. I mean, I'm going to pick one or the other and play with them, either Clemson or Alabama. I don't know how I'll choose that or decide that, or maybe I'll let the guy that donated $2 decide. Where did he go? Let me find him. If I can scroll back up and find him, or is it gone now? Trey Pickett, if you're still watching, you can pick whether I'm Clemson or Alabama, and hopefully I don't miss your comment if you're still watching. Hopefully I don't miss your comment. Trey Pickett. You can choose Clemson or Alabama. I'll be one of the two, streaming that tomorrow night. I'll do it around the same time that I did the stream on Monday night, so probably around 9:30 or so. Shut up, Thomas. Turn it down, Lou. Yeah. So, Trey, it's up to you. You let me know. I'm going to play Clemson versus Alabama. I will choose either Clemson or I will play as Clemson or Alabama. I'll let Trey choose since he was kind enough to donate the $2. Yeah. I need to find another live stream to pull up here, too, so I can keep up with what the hell's going on. I mean, I've got it on SEC Network, too, so if anything happens, of course, they show it, and I can always flip this thing around, show it that way. It's just easier to do it through Facebook. Alabama, I want to beat them and shut people. All right, Trey. Alabama, it is. I've seen a couple people say that about Roquan Smith coming back for his senior year. I haven't heard that. I would be absolutely shocked if that happened. You know, I know Kirby pulled a miracle out of his hat last year getting Chubb and Michelle to come back. I don't see Roquan coming back. He's a top 10 pick in my opinion. But a couple of people have made that comment today in here. So has that been announced and I missed it? Or are you asking me what do I think? I would love it if he came back. It would be huge. He's the best defensive player in America. But I don't see it happening. So that's my thoughts on that. If I find out he is coming back, I'll be ecstatic.
Athletes that go through it with dignity and respect for the coaches every day. And the reason I decided to pick Georgia is it's a place that I loved since I was young. I always moved to them in college, things like that. And being able to get out, be recruited by them, by Coach Smart, by Coach Tucker, by McGee, really amazing. They kept it honest with me, and the deciding factors in me decided to choose Georgia. I love Georgia. I love the atmosphere. I love the game. I have great relationships with everybody up there, and that's one of the main reasons why I chose.
Got a prediction on the Rose Bowl?
Oh, go Dogs! I can't say the score because Oklahoma is a very good offense, but hopefully our defense can get out there and shut down Baker Mayfield and the rest of the guys. They probably get out there and throw a couple touchdowns. Receivers, you know, we got Swift, Chubb, Sonny Michelle. They can't be. They're the best running back in America right now. So hopefully we'll go out there and get that win and get some national championship.
That's 4-star defensive back Chris Smith. He's just signed with Georgia.
It's been a great day so far. Jamari Salyer just signed and committed. And hey, he has sent in his paperwork because Georgia tweeted it out. Jeff Santel's done a great job with that. There's a couple of videos up on Dog Nation about that. Trey Hill is signed, another offensive lineman. They've already got 4 offensive linemen in this class. You know, Justin Fields is coming up later on at noon. Maybe Cade Mays is coming up this afternoon as well, another offensive lineman. Pierce Jackson, a young wide receiver from Fort Valley. So it's been a great day for UGA, and there are some people saying this could be the #1 class in the country.
Awesome. We look forward to how this class comes together, and here at Dog Nation, we're so excited about the 2018 class. For all of your recruiting needs, keep it right here on Dog Nation, or head on over to SEC Country. Daniel, Shirley, I'm Hannah Chalker. We'll see you guys next time.
Well, I found one, but it didn't last long, did it? Let's look for another one. Yeah, Fields at noon. Emory Jones at 11:30. That'll be one to keep an eye on, because Florida fans, I'm telling you, you lose Matt Corral. You run Matt Corral off, Florida, because you're drooling over Justin Fields, chasing your tail. You were never getting Justin Fields, but you drooled over him. Dan Mullen didn't even meet with Matt Corral until about 17 days after he was hired. I mean, that's just pathetic and sad. Florida didn't have a huge recruiting class to start with, or a very good recruiting class to start with when Mullen was hired, but their highest-rated recruit was quarterback Matt Corral, right? Dan Mullen didn't even meet with the guy until 17 days after he was hired. No wonder Matt Corral flipped and left to Ole Miss. They were treating the guy like a stepchild. So Florida fans, it doesn't matter, we're getting Justin Fields. Doesn't matter, we're getting Justin Fields. Well, reality started to set in. That wasn't happening. Now they've got all their eggs in this Emory Jones basket. The guy's been committed to Ohio State forever and a day. I would be surprised if he flips to Florida. I just don't see the benefit of an elite dual-threat quarterback who's been committed to Urban Meyer and Ohio State forever flipping to a first-year Dan Mullen Florida team coming off of a terrible season. I don't understand. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, and they end up flipping him. Anything's possible. I don't see it happening. I think Emory Jones probably sticks with Ohio State, but we'll see. It would be good news for Georgia in terms of overall recruiting rankings if Emory Jones did flip from Ohio State. Georgia's got a chance to finish with the #1 class this year. Definitely top 3. I'm probably leaning more towards 3 right now, possibly 2. But it's not without the realm of possibility they finish #1. And Emory Jones leaving Ohio State would help that. But I would rather have the #3 class in Florida not get Emory Jones, to be honest. But we'll see what happens. That's coming up at 11:30. Justin Fields at noon. So a couple of big announcements coming up. I'm gonna find these streams for you guys so we can make sure and play it. I just see on the other screen here, Auburn is currently with the 8th ranked class in recruiting. That's according to ESPN. I usually go by 24/7, so I'm pretty sure they're probably close to that on 24/7 too. Auburn's sitting at number 8. They always get Auburn's always getting a good recruiting class. You got to give Malzahn credit for that. They have no problem at all getting elite wide receivers, it seems like, every year. Elite defensive linemen, it seems like, every year. They've had luck with running backs. Now, they tend to only get one, and that has come back to bite them in the last couple of years. Cam Petaway hurt towards the end of last year. Of course, Carry-On Luggage hurt this year. And once their starter goes down, they don't really have anybody at the running back position that's been able to step in and carry the load for Auburn, as opposed to like a UGA who goes 3, 4, 5 deep. That's sort of where UGA has an advantage in the running back department over a lot of other teams. It's not just about how good your number 1 running back is. It's also about how good your number 2, your number 3, and your number 4 are as well. But let me see if I can find a stream here for Emory Jones. Not sure where that might be. I don't know why Dog Nation had a good live stream going, and they just have shut it down. I don't know why. They just completely shut it down. Let's try. Let me try this one to see if they have something going. Nope. Dog Nation coming back at 11:45. Okay. I wish I could find this Emory. Let me see. I'd like to find this Emory Jones announcement somewhere. I wonder if I can find a Florida page that's live talking and see their reaction if they lose out on Emory Jones. Let me see. Now that would be funny. Let's see here. I'm looking. I'm going to find one. This might be one. Hold on. Damn it, I'm going to find it if it's the last thing I do. I promise you that. Well, I can't find it. It's supposed to be at 11:30, so you'd think you'd be able to find it somewhere. found a page that says they're going to show it, but they're not showing it right now. Florida's going to be so mad if they don't get this guy. I'm going to love it. I'm going to find it. I guess he's running late. I don't know. The hell y'all arguing about in there now? What is UT ranked in recruiting? I don't, in the 40s or 50s, I think. All right, I found it. Give me just a second here.
Outside of SunTrust Park, that's where Emory Jones will make his decision. The timeline on all of this is that Emory Jones has been at Ohio State for a while. For many months, the thought was that Jones was going to become a part of Alabama's 2018 recruiting class. But as of late, it seems like Jones has probably trended away from Alabama somewhat, given the fact that now you've even seen Alabama rumored to be interested in a quarterback like, say, James Foster, who's from Montgomery, Alabama, a four-star prospect. And then with Dan Mullen becoming the coach at Florida, Mullen's initial step as Florida coach was to visit five-star quarterback, another guy from the state of Georgia, Justin Fields. That was one of the first acts, really, for Dan Mullen as a Florida coach. But ultimately, Fields holds on to his commitment to Georgia. He takes an official visit to UGA this past weekend. He's going to sign his letter of intent later on today. The expectation is that's going to be Georgia. So it never materializes between Fields and Florida. Matt Corral, who was a quarterback commit that Mullen inherited when he became Florida coach, after an in-home visit with Mullen to Corral's house, Corral ends up flipping to Ole Miss. And if Dan Mullen in Florida could step in and replace Corral, who they lost, Justin Fields, who they never quite made a lot of hay with a guy like Emory Jones, I think that'd be viewed as a really significant win for the Florida Gators. If you're a Gator fan, though, what do you have some nervousness, some angst about? Well, maybe it's the fact that after the official visit of Emory Jones to Florida on Saturday, Jones and his mother, Trina Jones, do take some transportation from Gainesville over to Tallahassee for an official visit at Florida State on Sunday. And this may be the first of what's going to be many head-to-head battles in that Sunshine State between Dan Mullen, the brand new head coach at Florida, and Willie Taggart, the brand new head coach at Florida State. They're going head-to-head over Emory Jones here right now, at least in some respects it would seem. But if you trust the online community here, the chatter has been mostly about Emory Jones, the Florida visit on Saturday weighing in on heavily on his mind, maybe a little less of what happened at Tallahassee at Florida State on Sunday. In fact, Jones' mother, Trina Jones, told SEC Country this week that she had known Dan Mullen going back to his time at Mississippi State. Mullen at that time, the first major offer to be extended to Emory Jones. He did that as coach at Mississippi State. She knew him then. Also even aware of his work being done as the Florida offensive coordinator. So she's very well aware of Dan Mullen's situation here, and she told SEC Country that she'd have no problem if her son truly did want to choose the Florida Gators. You see there on your screen the situation. It's a sports bar called Sport and Social. As I said, it is next door really to SunTrust Park where the Atlanta Braves play their home games. It's kind of a brand new real estate development in the city of Atlanta. That is where Emory Jones is going to make his announcement coming up in just a moment. And a lot of Florida fans think there's a really good chance that Jones will choose the Florida Gators here, although you do have to pay attention to Alabama, which was thought to be Jones' leader for quite some time. Ohio State sticking with the school that he's been with this entire time. Maybe Florida State. Those are really the schools that we're watching here when it comes to Emory Jones. And when he makes his announcement, we'll carry it for you live here on SEC Country. I'll also take a moment to remind you to make sure, whatever your favorite SEC team is, make sure you check out our coverage at SECCountry.com all day today and really throughout the week. Early signing period actually goes for 3 days. It's kind of funny how in the SEC it's been a very front-loaded event, but early signing period is actually a 3-day event overall. In fact, one of the schools, Auburn, is probably using the 3 days, maybe more so than most of the rest of the SEC. I guess LSU's in that same boat as well. LSU will wait until Friday on Terrace Marshall, the wide receiver that it hopes to bring in. Florida's going to wait, or I should say Auburn's going to wait until Friday for Quindarius Monday to make it official. But a lot of this happening on Wednesday, including big news here for the Georgia Bulldogs. The nation's #1 running back who committed to Georgia back on June 27th, Zamir White, has made that official with a letter of intent here. Zamir will now be a member of Georgia's 2018 class, joining James Cook, the 4-star running back, who also signed with Georgia earlier today, giving Georgia the nation's #1 and #3 running backs for the class of 2018. That becoming official with Zamir White a moment ago. We'll cover all this for you this afternoon on AT&T SEC Country Live, coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today on the SEC Country Facebook page. I will be there along with my partner Mike Johnson, the former Alabama All-American. We will break down everything that happens, including a lot of reaction to what Emory Jones chooses, as we'll carry that announcement for you here just in a moment. While we're waiting on Emory Jones, though, to make his announcement official, let's get ready to take some comments here. Corey Stewart says, you not look that good to stand out. Bama, so cross off Florida. They're going to have 4 more struggle years. FSU is a joke now without Winston. Obviously making a case for where he thinks that Emory Jones ought to go to. But when you think about one of the reasons why Emory Jones might choose Florida, as you see some of the highlights of Jones at Heard County, one of the reasons why he has been such a coveted quarterback prospect. And when you think about a chance for Emory Jones to potentially align himself with a quarterback coach like Dan Mullen, that's developed Nick Fitzgerald into an all-SEC caliber quarterback, that developed Dak Prescott into the kind of quarterback that could set records at Mississippi State, go on to the NFL and be Rookie of the Year at the Dallas Cowboys, and really be their quarterback of the future, so much so that Dallas was willing to jettison Tony Romo. That's potentially the marriage that would be pretty attractive to Emory Jones. As for why he would have considered Alabama in the first place, I mean, there'd be some debate on that. In that Alabama signed Tua Tagovailoa last season, also signed Mac Jones as a part of the 2017 recruiting cycle. Jalen Hurts was a freshman starter last season, was SEC Player of the Year, has picked up right where he left off in his sophomore season here in 2017. That's a lot of competition. But players like Emory Jones are not scared from that competition. It's one of the reasons why he initially committed to Ohio State. They've got great quarterbacks of the future, including guys like Tate Martell. Emory Jones was not going to be scared off of that competition in Alabama. That's one of the reasons why he considered that. But maybe the extra love and attention that Florida has kind of brought in here as of late, one of the reasons why you've heard Florida kind of mentioned here. But obviously a lot of Alabama fans still think they have a shot, and a lot of that is probably with good reason. Buckeyes fans may be watching in on this a little bit too, and Florida State fans may be hoping for the best on this also. Alfonso Butler says that he needs to go to Alabama. We'll see if that's indeed what he does there. Nick Howard, of course, reminding us about Dak Prescott, the Mississippi State quarterback, that may be, to a certain degree, the blueprint that Emory Jones himself looks at as a guy that can develop the same kind of skill set and have the same kind of success at Florida that obviously Dak Prescott enjoyed at Mississippi State, was able to take with him to the NFL. Brandon McShay in the comment section says it wouldn't make sense if Jones goes to Ohio State or Alabama unless he likes to ride the bench. But here's the thing, though. You know, these players don't really view that way. I mean, elite players don't think they're going to ride the bench. Elite players believe they have every ability to win a job and take it from someone. One thing we've seen from Nick Saban in Alabama is his own willingness to have open competitions. I think that did go on this past spring and summer to a degree with Tua Tagovailoa and Jalen Hurts, the two elite quarterbacks currently in the Alabama roster. I think that Emory Jones would be given his chance to impress when he arrived at Tuscaloosa, where he signed with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Is it likely that he would beat out Hurts? Is it likely that he would beat out Tua Tagovailoa, who in brief moments when he's had a chance to play this season has looked pretty impressive? It's probably not likely that would happen, but guys like Emory Jones, who have that kind of athletic ability, don't really think in those kinds of terms. They think in terms of what's possible, not in terms of what's likely. Anthony Fitzpatrick says that Emory Jones could be the difference maker at Florida. And I think that to a degree that probably is true, that his potential of making a big difference to the Gators, I think, is probably significant. Remember, this is a program that, you know, suffered the injury with Luke Del Rio. That's not quite sure what it has right now in Felipe Franks. Misses out on Matt Corral. You know, in terms of quarterback of the future, there's also some concern about who the quarterback of the present would be. Emory Jones, were he to go to Florida, would add more than just sort of a tangible on-field benefit for the Gators. There's also sort of an intangible lift of morale that a guy like this for Florida to sort of rally around and build around, I think he would potentially provide. It's also fair to point out here that if Jones becomes a part of Florida's class, not the only playmaker that Florida would be bringing in here for its 2018 class. You think about Damian Pierce, the four-star running back from Bainbridge, Georgia, who's really probably right now the centerpiece offensive recruit. And yes, Florida did lose a couple wide receivers. So you saw Jamar Chase, a one-time Florida commit. He's decommitted from the Gators. Odds are he's probably going to TCU. Jacob Copeland from Pensacola, one-time Florida commit. He's decommitted from the Gators. He has visited a few places here, been thought to be trending towards Alabama, takes an official visit to Tennessee this past weekend, could still come back to Florida, but he may be on the move here. Florida does add the wide receiver Van Jefferson as a transfer from Ole Miss. That's the kind of guy that I think is an all-SEC caliber wide receiver potentially. He'll have to petition the SEC and the NCAA to be eligible here in 2018. Otherwise, he'd have to sit out. But adding Jefferson to Florida also...
All right, I'll turn this clown back up. I'll turn this clown back up. I'll turn that clown back up whenever they get to the actual commitment, whenever that might be. So, I don't know. Florida, Ohio State. I see some people in the comment section saying he's going to pick Bama. Not too sure. Bama's got Hurts. He's a sophomore. They've got that Tua Tagovailoa. That's a true freshman. Highly rated recruit. Not sure Emory Jones would want to go sit behind those two. So we'll see what ends up happening here. Here we go again with the turn the mic up, Lou. How about you turn your volume up, okay? So, I mean, I'm not too sure he wants to go sit behind Alabama. Maybe he does. I don't know. Alabama's had no problem in the past stacking big-name recruits. So we'll see. I tend to think it's going to be Ohio State or Florida. We'll find out soon. Well, I mean, now people are going to say it's too loud. I turned it up a little. Now they'll say it's too loud. I mean, I'm trying here. This is only the second time I've streamed this way, so it may take me a little while to get all the volume levels mixed the right way. Yeah, turn it down. Yeah, there it is. Turn it down. Turn it up. Turn it down. Tony Manis is mad because he knows what's coming with Dan Mullen. Good morning, Tony Manis. All right, hold on. Here we go.
You know, we got a season where we made it to the semis and we got beat by April. I think with 5 seconds left in the ball game, we were stuck. But for Heard County, that was the farthest that our program has ever been. And it was established in 1972. And to do what they did this year and get to play on ESPN and we're just very proud of them. You know, a lot of that success has got to do with what's at this table right now. Not just these guys, but those around it. Just having Emory, having Jaden, and having Beasley, who will be a guy next year, just well balanced. Got a good running back, you know, real good receiver, real good quarterback. And it's the first time that we've really been that balanced of an offense. So, you know, having these young men that are so talented. But and I know you hear coaches talk about it, but the big difference that made it so special is such good kids. You know, we've been blessed over the years to have some good ones come through, but to have kids that are talented, that work hard in the weight room, but also, you know, do well in the classroom and those things. That's enjoyable as a coach. It makes Friday nights fun, and obviously, you know, to do what we did season-wise, these young men right now are a big part of it.
Let's talk about a young manager. You're right, Jaden Moreland. He will not make his college decision today. As always, talk about what it was like to coach him and what makes him special.
You know, just true competitors. You know, coaching Jaden Moreland, guy played receiver for us and played in the secondary, played corner. In a school that's AA, you're better players end up playing on both sides of the ball. So, where other these guys, these other 4 or 5 stars are places where they're just playing on offense or they're just playing on defense and resting. And here we got Jaden out there starting corner and starting receiver, and just to play so hard for so many quarters. But the big thing that separates him from a lot of high school kids, he's just so explosive. You know,
which one of y'all talking about? He's gonna hop on the lane train. Did y'all see Lane Kiffin's post-game press conference after that bowl game last night, where he was taking shots at the other team's coach? That guy's hilarious.
I'm 5'10", I'm 170. Look at how he plays and what he does, and he's kind of put under the radar. But he just, you know, throughout the year, when we needed to play, you know, he knew where to go with the ball, and he was going to be the Jaden Moreland.
Give Jaden Michael ask him one question here. Jaden, who's it down to for you, and you'll decide later on, but who are the schools in the mix for you as it go into the second part of signing day?
Right now, it's kind of coming to the end. You know, it's just great to bring it from where we were in the past. With Tech, I've been talking to Tech recently. Georgia Southern and West Point, those 3, they're all great schools. But it's just the opportunity that I have. I couldn't be more thankful.
Okay, this guy here is not Emory Jones. This is some other guy that plays on Emory Jones' team that's not deciding today. He's got offers from Georgia Southern. Well, here comes Emory Jones, I guess, now.
Coach, I'm going to tell this real quick story because I went to see Roquan Smith play down in Heard County, and everybody was stargazing at Roquan Smith, and you come up, put your arm around me and said, just take a look at my 14-year-old quarterback, and turn around and walk off. I didn't realize this was a 14-year-old quarterback that night as a freshman. Talk about what it was like to coach Emory Jones, and what's somebody going to get in him on the next level.
You know, again, it goes back, you know, everybody that's going to sign and play quarterback at this next level, you know, in the SEC, ACC, wherever it may be, they're all special. You know, what's special for me is Emory, seeing him grow and progress and take the time to do all the things he did away from us, and Quincy and those guys. It didn't just happen in the weight room. It didn't just happen by what we did at Heard County. It was the people that were in his life. You know, the list, I'm sure, is huge, but it was just a sponge of knowledge for those guys, a sponge of knowledge for our coaching staff, and see him grow mentally over the past 2 or 3 years has been special. You know, we always knew that he was a special elite guy's an athlete. They always give you through a pretty ball. But those intangibles that separate a good quarterback from a great quarterback, to see that part of his game develop and mature over these past couple of years. And, you know, I can't say enough of the thing that, like I said, you know, Emory Jones is a kid that is in a small school, 600 kids, one red line in the whole town, all that stuff. And to be as highly nationally recruited he is, he never walked around with his chest, poked out. He never acted like he was above his teammates. He was always so friendly in the hallways to the other kids. And those things, you know, that I care about and we care about. And, you know, and it's really what's made Herc Henry just a great family atmosphere. You can't have one special and come through and not do it right because it trickles down. Because their eyes are on Emory Jones, their eyes are on Jay Moore. And when those guys do it right, and they set an example for the younger players, it just sets up the years down the road. This continues, and we just continue to develop good young men.
All right, we hand it over to the man of the hour here, Emory Jones. Emory came down, I guess, about a month ago, and we kind of just talked in the parking lot with the tape recorders. That was the first time that I think that I realized this is a very, very hard decision for you. Tell us what it's been like the last month, and even the last hour for you. Tell us what that's been like.
Over the last month, they've been kind of hectic for me. I've been trying to go on my final visits and just find the best fit for me, the best offense for me, the coaching staff that will develop me as a complete quarterback. And the last couple of days, they've been kind of crazy too. I went to Florida, then I went to Florida State, and then I was so tired. I had to manage all that and take in all that information. Coming home and talk about my mom, my family, and finally they see me.
How much did your phone ring the last 2 days?
I'll probably say I got like 70 texts last night, so it was kind of crazy. My phone was going off all night.
Well, let's don't wait any longer. We're going to let Emory Jones make his college decision.
Well, first of all, I want to thank God for all this. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank the community of Herc County for coming out and always supporting me and sticking with me. All my family here, and now I just want to say, for the next 3 to 4 years, I spend my college career.
Wow, so Dan Mullen finally gets him a big name recruit, steals Emory Jones away from Ohio State, Alabama, Florida State, and Dan Mullen lands a big one. Emory Jones is a good quarterback. I think he's ranked as the 4th or 5th best dual threat quarterback in America. So not quite as highly rated as Justin Fields, who signed with Georgia, but still, this is a big-time recruit for Dan Mullen. So his first huge commitment as Florida coach, Dan Mullen flips Emory Jones. Emory Jones commits and signs with the Florida Gators. So Florida has yet another quarterback to try to break this curse they've had since Tim Tebow, really, of just terrible quarterback play. The best quarterback Florida has signed in the last 7 or 8 years currently plays for West Virginia, Will Grier. So there you have it, Emory Jones to Florida. Anybody surprised? I'm a little surprised, I'm not going to lie. I didn't think Florida would land him. I thought Mullen might have screwed up big time by running Matt Corral off. So congrats to the Florida fans, though, in the Uncle Lou comment section here. You guys got you a good one. We'll see what Dan Mullen, the quarterback whisperer, can do with Emory Jones. Been a long time since Florida's had anybody really any good at the quarterback position. Del Rio, Franks. I don't think anybody really is sold on those two. So we'll see what Dan Mullen can do with Emory Jones. So, but y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comments. He should have went to UCF. Well, with Scott Frost leaving, not sure what sense that would make. But Matt Corral or Jones better? Well, they're two different types of quarterbacks. Corral's more of a pro style, which might explain why Mullen was so eager to go after somebody else. Mullen likes to get these quarterbacks that can run around. You look at his time at Mississippi State, at Dak Prescott, now Nick Fitzgerald. So Mullen looking for more of an athletic type quarterback, I think, whereas Matt Corral is more of your prototypical drop back passer. Now, he's not a statue. The guy can move around a little bit and make some plays with his feet when he needs to, but he's definitely not what you would consider a dual threat quarterback or a running quarterback. So Florida gets their guy at the quarterback position. It's been a bad couple of weeks for Florida. They've lost some big-name recruits. Wide receiver, Georgia stole a defensive back from them earlier today. David Wilson, 4-star defensive back, was committed to Florida, ended up signing with Georgia today. They lost a big-name wide receiver last week, I believe that was. So they finally sign a big name. Dan Mullen gets his first big recruit, quarterback Emory Jones, dual threat. Like I said, I think it's the 4th or 5th highest rated dual threat quarterback in the 2018 class. Here we go with the volume again. All right, I turned it up a little. Kansas. The Kansas comments in the Uncle Lou comment section never get old to me. I don't know why. It's just funny to me how that whole thing started back over the summer with the college football streams, the EA Sports NCAA football streams that we were doing, and just all the talk about Kansas when we were doing that, and it's just never died. Almost every video I make still 6, 7, 8 months later, almost every video I make still has at least 1 or 2 comments about something about Kansas. It never gets old. Let's see what else. Miami did good. Yeah, Miami's got a good class. The last I saw, they were ranked, I think, 2nd, right in front of Georgia and behind Ohio State. We'll see how losing Emory Jones affects Ohio State, or if it affects it at all. We'll see. It's got to have some kind of effect. I haven't really seen much Ohio State news today. If somebody in the comment section wants to chime in and let me know, I don't know if they've flipped any big names today, or if they've lost anybody else other than this quarterback, Emory Jones. I'm not too sure. But they had the #1 class going into today. I think Miami was 2, Georgia was 3. We'll see how it shakes up after the next 2 or 3 days of this early signing period is over. So who's next on the clock? That wraps up Emory Jones. Kind of recapping a little bit. Dogs get Jamari Salyer. Justin Fields signed. Zamir White signed. We flipped David Wilson, defensive back from Florida, signed with UGA. Earlier this morning, real early this morning, like 8 or 9, several of Georgia's recruits went ahead and signed. I know Jake Camarda, which was the nation's #1 kicker, signed with Georgia. Never a lot of hoopla or anything with a team signing a kicker, but I'm glad to see that Kirby Smart is taking the kicking position seriously. I was a little bit concerned with the way Kirby was handling that during the off season with the whole Rodrigo Blankenship deal, not having a scholarship, being a walk-on. I felt like he had earned a scholarship last year, didn't get one in the off season. Of course, he did end up getting one after the Notre Dame game, which was great. But this is the first big-time kicker Kirby has signed, this Camarda. Now, I guess he can kick field goals too, but he's actually rated as the #1 punter in America. So we'll see. A lot of times these kickers are sort of do-it-all guys in high school, and then sometimes in college maybe they'll do one or the other. Sometimes you'll get one that can do it all, punt, kickoffs, extra points, that kind of thing. So we'll see what Camarda can do when he shows up on campus next year. But I'm glad to see that Kirby is taking the kicking position seriously and finally going out and recruiting a big-name kicker. So he signed earlier this morning. Not sure who next up on the clock is today. Justin Fields and Zeus have signed. Clemson will ruin your wall. Mays to Clemson. I still think Cade Mays signs with UGA. Those are the two big ones this afternoon that I'm watching. Cade Mays and Brendan Cox. Both are announcing today around 2:30 or 3. That'll be on the second stream that I do. If you missed it earlier, YouTube has a 4-hour limit on live stream. So at some point I'm going to have to end this video and then start another one. So I need to figure out a time that there's sort of a break in the announcement schedule today, and that would be a good time for me to end this video, and then we'll start another one up this afternoon for the afternoon commitments. Adam Anderson at 12:30. He's all dog. Cade Mays, 2:30. That's right. Fields and Anderson are next. Why not go ahead and watch Fields? All right, let's see if we can find that. That's not what I wanted. Let's see what I can find here. You can quit trolling with the Fields. It's going to Florida. No one's buying that. You got your guy, Emory Jones. Be happy with that. That's honestly about the best you can hope for.
Perspective, the players' perspective. What about the coaches? I don't think, guys, that the coaches are really going to know till the end of the day. I think that obviously there's a lot of question marks as to what this day is going to be like for everybody. And I agree with you, Marcus. You know, I was on the committee when they first started talking about an early signing period. And one of the statements that I made was that I felt like December, it will become the signing period. It will become the signing day. And I think that's happening right now. But what's really interesting to me is the dynamics of the different schools. You got Kentucky, who within 2 hours had 21 guys signed, and then you got guys like Tennessee right now that are hovering around the 2, 3, 4 mark. It's just the circumstances that are wrong with each school, and they're all different.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go on. Today is the key day, but this is also a 72-hour window. We'll go through Friday, so some more stuff can trickle out the next 2 days.
But you estimated to me of all the signings over the next 3 days, you're guessing what? At
least 80% will happen today.
Will happen today. So this is a huge day. Okay, coverage. Quite frankly, a lot of places. We'll show you where we are in just a moment, but we want to show you national rankings. This is the top 10 as of, 11 o'clock Eastern time. The next update will come at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Georgia started the day at 4. They're at 3.
Auburn started the day at 8. They're at 7. Alabama started the day at 10. They are at 8. So there has been some movement. Auburn, by the way, has not finished a class higher than Bama since Saban's first class at Alabama. Right now, they sit one spot ahead of them. All right, coverage, as we mentioned, in a multitude of places, including Lawrence Sisler in Tuscaloosa following the Tide, Matt Stinchcomb in Athens following Georgia, and, of course, Chris Doering in his hometown of Gainesville following Florida. Time to hear from you three, and we started with Lauren. Hello, Lauren.
Hey, Dari, I woke up this morning thinking it was February, but no, wait, it's December. It's early signing day. It's something that all of us are wondering how this thing is going to shake out. A lot of question marks and a lot of challenges. That, according to Alabama head coach Nick Saban, saying this adds a new level of stress into the wrinkle as he prepares for the college football playoff. But, Dari, I got to tell you, it's really business as usual. One of the players even came up to me and said, "What are you guys doing here on campus?" I said, "It's early signing day." He says, "Wait, we're signing guys today?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I think these guys are really preparing for this college football playoff. That is their focal point. Of course, we'll keep an eye on things as they come in later today. Now I'm going to send it over to Athens with Matt Stinchcomb. What's up, Matt?
To more than anything else is that this is uncharted territory in a lot of different ways. Not only is Alabama and Georgia preparing for college football playoff games, but also trying to garner yet another highly ranked recruiting class. And we know that that ultimately is the raw materials for any elite program. When you look at the national champions, the past 6 years, they've recruited incredibly well at very, very high levels. They don't anticipate a ton of drama here in Athens. And more than anything else, it does seem as if it's very much business-like. We visited with Coach Smart earlier, and his mantra, more than anything else, the theme for the day is no surprises. So I'm sure that we're going to hear some names externally that no one necessarily anticipated. But at the end of the day, internally, these coaches feel as if that they'll have a strong class. At the end of the day, they will have one of the best recruiting classes from an offensive line standpoint that they've had in years. Not a lot of surprises, though, ultimately, and I think at the end of the day, they'll be very pleased with it. Let's check out and see how things are going in the swamp with our man, Chris Doering.
Appreciate it, Stench. Well, down here, it's much the same, even though Dan Mullen's only had less than a month to kind of put this class together. He's done a great job to this point in time. 10 guys have signed to this point in the day. No real surprises, but the big announcement, which Florida felt very comfortable with heading into signing day today, was Emory Jones, the quarterback out of Georgia, a former Ohio State commit, now flips his commitment, signs with the Gators. So Dan Mullen, the quarterback whisperer, has his first guy on campus to run this offense, and now he'll have an opportunity to recruit for the remainder of the signing period leading up to February, which they feel like is a big get that they also is a supplement to his signing as well.
All right, guys, thank you.
Five-star quarterback for the class of 2018 after having added Jake Fromm for the class of 2017 and Jacob Eason for the class of 2016. And I guess in a lot of ways, the question that's going to be asked here is, how did Georgia do this? How was Georgia able to get this done? How is it that this unprecedented step of bringing in this embarrassment of riches at the quarterback position was even possible? And I think that part of how you get there, part of why there is this moment unfolding at Harrison High School right now with Justin Fields, I think you have to obviously give credit to Kirby Smart. He's the architect of the entire thing. He's the head coach that sets in motion the organization that makes these kinds of things possible. But it's also the work of a guy like Dell McGee. It's also the work of a guy like that who established that personal relationship with Justin Fields. And when Dan Mullen, the new Florida coach, visited with Fields not that long ago, in the brief moment right after that, you had Dell McGee back at Fields' house, showing him that he continued to be a priority for Georgia. That was not the kind of person that they were in any way taking for granted whatsoever. And obviously that relationship stayed strong. And Fields, who put on a dazzling display throughout his career at Harrison High School, whether it be with his arm, whether it be with his leg, certainly as a leader for his team, one of the captains there for Harrison football. This is a guy that Georgia fans have kind of fallen in love with. And yes, the season for him with the Hoyas did come to a premature end. He obviously dealt with the finger injury that sort of sidelined him before his high school career had a chance to sort of come to its ultimate destination. He is still on his way to recovery, and he'll be a part of the Georgia Bulldogs' future.
In the immediate, though, the question that Georgia fans ask themselves as Justin Fields signs his letter of intent right now, and you see him there at Harrison High School taking a look at some of the things going on with the Georgia helmet there on one side, the Georgia Bulldog statue, bust, I guess you might call it, on the other, the great-looking Georgia visor. One of the questions that we'll find answers to here in just a moment, or I should say throughout the next few weeks, is will Fields, who is now an early signee, also become an early enrollee? There's obviously a sport like baseball, which plays a big impact on what Fields does in his life, as he wants to make sure he gets that hair looking just right. And I got to say, looking pretty clean today is Justin Fields. Got the Georgia, was it a slap bracelet that he's wearing on his wrist there? A lot of his Harrison teammates coming around and gathering around him. This, of course, a big day for them. Many of them also, I'm sure, continuing athletic futures here. And for a lot of these guys, you know, not just the guys who are signing with Georgia, but for a lot of guys around the state of Georgia, they're getting their chance to also further their football careers here as well. And that's an exciting time. And I know that for Justin Fields, you know, it is obvious throughout this entire process how much he values both his teammates there with the Harrison Hoyas and the student body that he spends time with at Harrison High School. At every step of the way, Fields has had opportunities to make, you know, more public declarations than what he's chosen to do. Fields is a guy that, for a certain extent, has kind of kept his entire scenario fairly private. Has not given a lot of interviews, has done exclusive interviews with Dog Nation's Jeff Sintel, but has not done a lot of interviews, has kind of foregone a lot of the flashy commitment video type things, a lot of the public appearances on ESPN that could have been made available. When he committed at Harrison High School, surrounded by the same students that he goes to school with each and every day. That was his choice, and today, as he makes it official by signing his letter of intent here on the very first day of the very first ever early signing period for college football, he also does it in similar fashion, surrounded by the same students that he's gone to school with at Harrison High School these past few years. Had a chance last night when Dog Nation was live at the Marlowe's in Emory Point to talk to some folks who care a lot about Harrison High School, and they were certainly talking about how proud they've been about the way that Fields has represented Harrison through the years. Of course, this is a Harrison program that's had great success. Think back to the legendary Bruce Cobley, who was a longtime coach there with the Hoyas, and Fields has sort of ushered in a brand new era of football there in Kennesaw, Georgia. And of course, Georgia fans are excited about him. And this is also a chance for, if some Georgia fans are going to be honest here, to maybe breathe a bit of a sigh of relief, because I think even with a lot of Georgia fans, there was this thought of, is Georgia really going to do this? I mean, is Georgia really going to go out and add another five-star quarterback after you've got last year's five-star quarterback who's playing about as well as a true freshman ever could with Jake Fromm? But you see the visual video evidence that proves the only thing that you need to know is that, yes, Georgia is indeed going to do that. And the efforts of the Florida Gators to swoop in and steal Fields, well, they're all for naught. Florida lost to Georgia on the field in October, lost the Dogs in recruiting here to start the Dan Mullen era. And whatever Jimbo Fisher may have tried to do at Texas A&M to bring him in, whatever Florida State may have tried to do with brand new coach Willie Taggart, all of those efforts go by the wayside here as Georgia gets a big one and a good one, and it comes official here as Justin Fields signs his letter of intent in a ceremony here at Harrison High School, joining the Georgia Bulldogs for the class of 2018. We'll talk more about Fields. We'll talk to you here in this very special Dog Nation presentation. Also, we may have a surprise coming up in just a moment of another UGA commit and another five-star as he gets ready to make that official. We'll tell you more about that coming up in just a moment. Mike Anderson says, BA, you got to follow the visits. He was UGA all the way. And that is true. You know, you saw that pattern for Fields where, you know, he was showing up at Georgia multiple weeks in a row. Think back to the Samford game here for a moment. I thought that Jeff Sintel had a great story about Fields from that Samford game of, you know, this is not a big-time opponent. This is not an exciting game. And leading up to the half of that game against Samford, Fields, so you see turning on the jets right there and showing his true ability as a dual-threat runner. But Fields of that Samford game, you know, when it was time for the recruits to start sort of going back to the back and enjoying, you know, the food and the fellowship that kind of comes with being a big-time recruit, being entertained at Georgia, Fields sort of passed that by, and he stayed sitting in his seat there in the recruit section there at Sanford Stadium, kind of homed in on that Georgia offense, watching that final couple drives of the second quarter against lowly Samford, because this was more than just a chance for him to be wooed, a chance for him to be patted on the back. He would accept no rat poison that day, if you'll pardon the phrase. He wanted to learn about football. He wanted to make a deliberate decision. And so, as Mike says in the comment section following that visit, he wanted to do that. in a moment. You see the pen there in front of Justin Fields. He will pick that up. He will sign that, make that official with a lot of Harrison coaches surrounding him. We will show that to you as it happens. We'll go actually full live to Harrison High School to kind of get the sights and sounds of the scene there with Justin Fields as the ink will become attached to the national letter of intent. And the 5-star quarterback who could be a big part of the future for the Georgia Bulldogs and a big reason why Georgia could be in the rarefied air of the very top classes for 2018. We will see that. We'll show that to you as it happens. Handshakes and high fives all around for Fields, and how could you not do that? Of course, Cheston Wainscott reminding us that Micah Parsons does sign with Penn State earlier, and of course that brings us back to Justin Fields, who himself at one point in time was a Penn State commit. For a while it was thought that Parsons and Penn State and Justin Fields could all be in a relationship together here for some time. But when Fields made the decision to decommit from Penn State, the door was open for something else to happen. As you see, Fields now walking over to get some photographs, showing off the nice suit there with the bow tie. A lot of bow ties here popular. Letter of intent being thumbed through, checking that. Now the pen is there. You see Justin Fields signing and making it official that he will be a member of the Georgia Bulldogs for the class of 2018. Incredible moment, checking the phone, maybe a bit of a selfie to mark the moment. But Fields signing with Georgia there, bringing a sigh of relief to a lot of Dog fans and certainly a sense of excitement for Georgia offensive coordinator Jim Chaney, for Dell McGee, who played a pivotal role in Fields' recruitment, for Kirby Smart himself. I know Kearis Jackson, the wide receiver, who's already made it official himself for Georgia for the class of 2018. He's looking forward to playing with Fields. We talked to Dominic Blaylock for a special Dog Nation broadcast at Marlowe's a couple of weeks ago. Blaylock, a 2019 receiver. He talked about how much he was looking forward to being a part of the future with Justin Fields. And, of course, a lot of Georgia fans themselves also kind of looking in on to see how this competition, and yes, much the same way that Jake Fromm pushed Jacob Eason in 2016 with the competition, the expectation here is the same kind of competition will unfold with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm. Whether it begins this spring, this summer, Fields is the kind of guy that's going to push for playing time. He's an elite athlete. Elite athletes have a very different sense of confidence than many of us do, and a very strong belief about their ability to contribute no matter how stacked the depth chart may be against them. All smiles there for Justin Fields, and those smiles with good feelings and with good reason. I love what Justin Messer says in the comment section, that Justin Fields is program-changing talent. And yes, we may say that a lot today as early signing period begins here around Dog Nation. But in terms of the true program changer, I don't know that anyone has the potential of providing that more than Justin Fields. With all due respect, the other guys that Georgia's going to add to this class, I don't know that anyone does that more here than Fields has the potential to, because of what we alluded to a moment ago and what we've talked about, so much as you see Fields now really having a good time with some of his teammates. What we've talked about, so much is that Fields not only brings his own talent to Georgia, but there are guys who will be at Georgia because of Justin Fields. We brought to you live earlier today Jamari Salyer making it official, becoming a member of Georgia's 2018 class. Is Salyer's
subscribe to Uncle Lou.
Very
well.
Not
already.
Think about an
Watch Uncle Lou every day like you're supposed to.
Probably signed during the early signing period.
It'll make you smarter.
The tight end.
It'll lower your cholesterol.
Georgia among a group of about.
Get you off that lipitor, which is killing you from the inside out, and just make you just all around a better person.
That being a part of the school that Justin Fields was a part of was a big goal for him. Well, now Fields is official at Georgia. Does that mean that that Luke Ford will be on his way as well? That's the kind of influence a guy like Justin Fields, I think, potentially brings to the table, and it's one of the reasons why there is so much excitement about what he's doing and what he's going to be a part of, as you see him really kind of soaking up his moment there. Thomas Bates also reminds in the comment section that James Cook did also sign today. He made that official.
Answer questions. All right, ask away. If you ask, I will answer. Yeah, I fixed the echo. What's up, Philip? What's up, John? Connor? John Reddy? Connor Beers? Good morning. Thanks for watching the Uncle Lou Show, a signing day special. So, yeah. right, then. What's the word? Who are the early enrollees? Justin Fields is 50-50 at this point as far as being an early enrollee. I had a list that someone gave me of early enrollees, and I don't know what I did with it, and I don't want to give out wrong information. Donnie Murphy, good morning, sir. KP Dog, how are you? Beyond the Benches, good morning. Let's see, what are you saying here? Emory Jones, perfect fit for Mullen's offense. East lead by UGA heading into next year with South Carolina and Florida, the next two teams. Yeah, I think if you're looking at next year already, you're looking at UGA as the favorite in the East, followed by probably South Carolina and then Florida. I hope Zamir White signs early so that he can get into Athens and the physical therapists and the rehab people can have 24/7 access to him. I think that'll help with his recovery. So that would be a benefit, I think, for him to enroll early. Justin Fields, of course, is a baseball player, and he never planned on enrolling early, no matter where he went, because he was going to play baseball his senior year this year in high school. Of course, he broke his finger a little over a month ago. Not real sure what that means for his spring baseball season. For selfish reasons, I hope he doesn't play baseball. That just provides more opportunity for him to get hurt. So if I'm being selfish from a Georgia perspective, I don't want him to play baseball his senior year in high school. I would want him to enroll at UGA, get a head start on the offense. Fromm is the starter. We can shut all that down now. I know a freshman backup, highly recruited quarterback is everyone's favorite player, especially casual fans. They, you know, anytime something goes wrong, oh, put the backup quarterback in. Jake Fromm is the quarterback this year, next year. Now, with that being said, I do think Justin Fields will play early and often. I don't think he'll start. I think they'll have certain packages for Justin Fields to come in and run, whether that's red zone packages or certain situations in the game. Think back to like a DJ Shockley type of situation before he was the starter. He still played a lot in the red zone. They had certain packages they would send him in, and I think that's what you'll see, or something similar to that in terms of playing time with Justin Fields. I don't think he'll redshirt or anything like that, especially if Eason transfers, because Justin Fields would be QB2. All we have after that is walk-ons, your Stetson Bennett's, et cetera, et cetera. So Justin Fields walks on to campus at UGA at worst as QB3, and that's if Eason stays. I don't expect him to. I think Eason will transfer. We'll see. My guess would be we would hear something on that within the next month, by January, or the first week or two in January would be my guess. You will hear something about Eason and transferring or not. All right, what else is going on? Donnie Murphy says, I love it when you yell back at your neighbor lady. Yeah, it's only happened a couple of times. Well, it's happened more than that. I've only caught it on camera twice. So I still really don't know who it is that's doing it. I don't think it's the person that lives directly next door to me, because they know what I do, and because they asked a long time ago, you know, what's going on. I think I've told this story before too, but my father-in-law was over here one day, and he was in the front yard, and my neighbor was doing some work in his yard, and he walked over and was talking to my father-in-law and made the comment, wow, your daughter and your son-in-law argue and yell about football all the time, and they come outside to do it, or they go in the garage and do it. And I guess because he knows we have kids, I guess they were thinking we were arguing about football and didn't want to do it in front of the kids, so we always came out into the garage here to argue about football. My father-in-law laughed and said, no, he has a YouTube channel, and if he gets irritated, he goes out in his garage and yells into his phone, whatever my father-in-law told him. So anyway, point of that is that's the guy that lives right directly next door to me. So he knows what I do here. So I don't think it was him or his wife that have been yelling at me the couple of times someone has yelled at me. I'm not sure who. I don't think it's the people directly across the street either. I've never talked with them, or they've never asked me what it is I'm doing out here. But I do know the guy. I talk to him from time to time. I don't think it's him either. There's a lot of people in this neighborhood that walk their dog and stuff like that. I live in a cul-de-sac, so a lot of people will walk down here, you know, turn around in the cul-de-sac and walk back. For all I know, it could have been somebody just out walking their dog, heard me yelling, and like that one time, and when I was doing that Georgia Tech video, you know, you're at Georgia Tech, you can do that. You guys know the one I'm talking about. And the lady yelled, "Shut the f up." That was the best one. I mean, that was hilarious. And then I yelled back at her, "No, you shut up, B. I'm doing LouTube, bitch." I thought about not saying that, but I went ahead and said it. So I apologize if any kids listening didn't want to hear a bad word. But yeah, that was by far the funniest. But I still don't really know who that is. I mean, it could be someone that lives right around here, or it could have just been someone walking their dog or something like that. I really have no idea who it is. I really don't care either. John Reddy, hey Lou, how long before you bow down to my Jayhawk regime? Well, if we were to play you in basketball, I'd probably be forced to bow down. But as long as we're talking about football, then that's most likely not going to happen, sir. Kansas is perennially the worst, or one of the top 2 or 3 worst Power 5 college football programs in America. I mean, this year you had teams like Baylor. You know, you had teams like Tennessee. Rutgers has been really bad the last few years. But, you know, if you look at a 10, 15-year period, whatever it is, overall, Kansas has got to be the worst team. So not too many football programs or fans of any other football teams are going to be bowing down to the Kansas Jayhawks anytime soon. Brooks Long, We Are Marshall. Great movie. Don't really know what else to say there. South Carolina commits recruiting violation. Speaking of recruiting violations, I didn't mention this before the Emory Jones announcement because I didn't really want to ruin it or whatever. I heard Ohio State committed a recruiting violation in regards to Emory Jones, and that they had to stop recruiting him and basically rescind his offer because of some sort of violation they committed. So that may have more to do with why Emory Jones landed at Florida than Dan Mullen just being some super recruiter and coming in and stealing Emory Jones out from under Urban Meyer or anything like that. Now, maybe that's just a rumor that the Sucknuts started to shield themselves from the embarrassment of losing their prized quarterback recruit. I don't know, but I have been hearing that over the last day or two that Ohio State recruited or committed a recruiting violation, and as part of that had to back off of Emory Jones. So I don't know if any of you guys have heard that or have more information on that. Who do I think will fill Roquan's shoes next year? Nobody. Roquan Smith is not the type of player that you can replace. I know we have a ton of elite athletes on defense. We've had great recruiting classes the last couple of years under Kirby Smart. I mean, we've got guys like Robert Beal. I mean, we forget about these kids, right? Robert Beal. I mean, I could go on and on with these defensive linemen and linebackers that we've signed over the last year or two that we haven't even seen yet, because we have such studs like Natrez and Roquan Smith and Lorenzo Carter and David Marshall and Jonathan Ledbetter and John Atkins and Trent Thompson, all these names, you know, right? We forget about all these other kids we've recruited the last year or two that are waiting their turn, right? But in terms of replacing Roquan Smith, you're not going to replace Roquan Smith. Now, we'll have a talented guy at that position without question, and I don't think the defense is going to drop off the map if Roquan Smith goes pro, but you don't replace a Butkus Award. You don't replace the best defensive player in college football. You just don't. Now, we'll have plenty of playmakers on the defensive side of the ball next year and every year as long as Kirby Smart's running the show, but you don't replace a Roquan Smith. So the short answer to that question would be nobody. 2 USC junior assistant coaches are getting suspended and fined. Well, you got to play by the rules. It's that simple. I know a lot of people have been crying lately, oh, Georgia's got to be paying these recruits. There's no way they could get all these recruits, blah, 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 blah. People forget Kirby is only recruiting a little bit better than Mark Richt did. I mean, Georgia is a talent-rich state when it comes to high school football. That's not me bragging on UGA or Georgia. That's just the reality of the situation. I mean, that's not a subjective opinion. I mean, that's a provable fact. When you talk about your top 4 or 5 states in America in terms of high school talent, you're talking about Georgia, Florida, Texas, California, right? I mean, those are the hotbeds. Georgia is the only major Division I program in the state of Georgia. Georgia Tech is a big-time program. I'll give them credit. They're a Power 5 team. They're in the ACC. But because of the coach they have and the style of offense that they run, they're not able to recruit the type of kid that Georgia is going after. They're just not. You know, most kids coming out of high school, highly rated recruits anyway, that have dreams of making it to the NFL one day or aspirations of being big-time college football players, aren't going to even look at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech tends to get kids who are good but maybe not big enough for the position they want to play, or who just aren't recruited by very many other Division I programs. And I'm talking about quarterbacks and running backs in particular. So Georgia's in a great position right now in terms of recruiting. Now, that pendulum could swing at any time, and high school football in Georgia could dry up or go downhill. But right now, it's at a peak. Right now, high school football in Georgia is probably the best it's been in 30 years at least. So Georgia is surrounded, right, by elite high school talent. Mark Richt was getting top 10, top 15 classes every year when he was here. So now Kirby Smart's here. We're getting top 5. Last year, top 3. Looks like another top 3 this year, maybe 1 or 2. 2019 looks like it's going to be better right now than even 2018 is setting up to be. So is he doing better than Mark Richt? Yeah, but it's not a huge surprise to anybody, I don't think, that pays attention to college football or recruiting or high school talent, that Georgia's able to get a top 5 class now for 3 years in a row. I don't think that's a surprise, and I don't think that's any indication that Georgia is somehow skirting the rules or cheating or paying players. I've never accused Alabama of paying players. I don't think, do I think Alabama is doing anything that any other school's not doing to get their recruits? No. What they are doing is winning. They're winning a lot. They're winning consistently, and they have arguably the greatest coach in the history of college football. And that means something to high school recruits. I mean, that's one of the reasons Alabama and Nick Saban has been able to get the #1 class for how many years in a row now. I don't necessarily think that means that Alabama is cheating or buying players. Now, the situation at Ole Miss is totally different. Now, you listen to Ole Miss fan talk about it, and they say, well, this goes on everywhere. You know, you have $100 handshakes and boosters paying for kids' meals and stuff like that. Yeah, that happens everywhere. That's not what Ole Miss was doing, and that's not what got Ole Miss busted. Ole Miss did not get busted because a booster gave a kid $100. Ole Miss did not get busted because a recruit or a player was out to eat at a steak restaurant and someone across the restaurant recognized him and paid for his meal. That's not why Ole Miss got busted, okay? Those are the types of things that go on all the time, everywhere, at every major sporting university in America. Are those things technically against the rules? Of course they are, but they happen. I don't know what else to tell you about it. They happen everywhere. I really don't know what else to say about it. Is UGA going out and buying kids' families' houses? No. Are they handing kids $100,000 checks? No. I don't think they are. I don't think Alabama is. I don't think Clemson is. I don't think Ohio State is. I don't think really any team is doing that. I think it's too hard to get away with that. I don't think you could go out and be that brash and that out in the open and in your face about those types of violations and basically paying for players without getting caught. Not in 2017 with social media. Everybody's got a phone on them all the time. I just don't think these things could be kept a secret. I just don't. I think Ole Miss was by far the dirtiest recruiting program in America. And it wasn't a surprise to anybody when they got busted by the NCAA and got shut down. It was not a surprise. Maybe Ole Miss fans were surprised. Maybe they were in denial. I don't know. But everyone was suspicious of Ole Miss. I mean, I can name 4 or 5 players over the last 4 or 5 years that were 100% committed to UJ, all dog, and then 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours before signing day, they're uncommitting and then signing at Ole Miss. And it wasn't just happening to Georgia. It was happening to a lot of teams. And, you know, eventually it caught up to them. The NCAA got involved, and here we are. Bowl bans, sanctions, loss of scholarships for the next few years. You know, they're going to be irrelevant, even more irrelevant than they were when they were buying players. That's what makes it so sad. Ole Miss did all this underhanded, crooked stuff right out in the open buying players. Ole Miss had players getting drafted, right, and then went on stage at the NFL draft and admit it. I mean, just come right out and admit it. And Ole Miss fans were still in denial. And it still took the NCAA over a year, more after that, to finally bring the hammer down on them. I mean, it just didn't make any sense. What Ole Miss was doing was just wrong, filthy, and dirty. Hugh Freeze, you know, I have zero respect for Hugh Freeze at all. He knew what was going on. You know, all the denials, you know, sending out tweets saying, you know, because people were tweeting at Hugh Freeze, you know, quit buying players, whatever, you know, trolling him, whatever, on Twitter. And Hugh Freeze sends out a tweet. If you have any proof that Ole Miss has committed any recruiting violations, please contact compliance at olemiss.edu or whatever the email. I mean, the guy was just bald-faced lying. I mean, it was just so obvious what was going on at Ole Miss. And then you look around, and the only evidence anyone has that Georgia or Alabama or Clemson or Ohio State is quote-unquote cheating to get these recruits is what? Highly rated recruiting classes. That's it. That's all the evidence they have. Oh, they're a highly rated recruiting class. They must be cheating. They must be buying recruits. No, they must just be going out and recruiting. Listen, somebody has to have the #1 recruiting class every year. Somebody has to finish second. Right? Somebody has to finish third. Somebody has to finish fourth. You know, just because somebody finishes #1 in recruiting or #2 in recruiting or #3 in recruiting or #8 or whatever doesn't mean that they're cheating and buying players. Some teams are just better suited to recruit players than others. I mean, that's just the way it is. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, Southern Cal, Texas, Oklahoma, Florida, Auburn, these teams are typically going to recruit better than Missouri and Kansas and Baylor and Rutgers and Arizona and Iowa. I mean, I could go on. I mean, it doesn't mean they're cheating. You know, it just doesn't mean that. You know, and I know people get mad because, you know, they see Georgia stacking up these recruits in these recruiting classes, and, you know, they're scratching their head. Oh, my God, we might not beat Georgia till the year 2040, 11, you know, and they're big time mad, you know. And I hate Alabama, but like I said, I've never accused Alabama or Nick Saban of cheating to get recruits. Nick Saban is just a hell of a coach. They win 11, 12 games a year. They've made the college football playoff every year. How many BCS championship games was Alabama in under Nick Saban from 2008 till 2013? I mean, that's, you know, that's why they're recruiting so well. They don't have to go out and buy players. Now, when a team like Ole Miss goes from consistently being the 55th ranked recruiting class year after year after year after year to now being top 5, now, yeah, that sends up a red flag. But to say that Georgia is cheating or buying players because they went from being 8th in recruiting under Mark Richt to being 5th and then 3rd under Kirby Smart, they must be cheating. Well, that's just ridiculous. All right, rant over. No, I don't think Texas is cheating. So, anyway. many people are even watching? $200. Yeah, Florida got their QB, Emory Jones, and he's a good one too. I'm not going to knock him. You know, do I think he's as good as Justin Fields? No, but I mean, you're splitting hairs. You're talking about the number one dual threat versus what is Emory Jones to number 3, 4, 5, whatever he is. I mean, you're splitting hairs. I'm happy with Justin Fields. I'm sure Florida fans are gonna say they're happy with Emory Jones. I mean, what else are they gonna say? Is he a terrible quarterback? No, of course he's not. He's got a lot of potential. I don't think he has the potential that Justin Fields has, but like I said, that's a subjective opinion. Dan Mullen got his guy, so we'll see. Or Dan Mullen got plan B, actually. Dan Mullen wanted Justin Fields. Don't tell me he didn't. If he didn't want Justin Fields, he wouldn't have gone and met with him, plain and simple, before he met with Emory Jones. So, and like I said, the rumors are out there that Ohio State committed a recruiting violation and was basically forced to give up on Emory Jones. Is that true? I don't know. So, you know, Emory Jones may have just fell in Dan Mullen's lap. It may not be an indication, like I said a minute ago, this may not be an indication that Dan Mullen is some elite recruiter that was able to swing Emory Jones from Ohio State. It could be more the fact that he just landed in their lap due to a violation by Ohio State. Who knows? Marcus Moses wants to know, does Jacob Eason leave Georgia? I tend to think that he is going to transfer. I felt that way for 6 or 8 weeks now. I never want anybody to transfer, but I'm not going to be mad at Jacob Eason if that's what he decides to do. I still think Jacob Eason is an elite talent with a lot of potential, pro NFL potential too, and Jake Fromm is the quarterback at UGA, barring injury. I don't see it any other way. Now, even if Eason stays at UGA, I fully expect Kirby to come out in the offseason and say what he says all the time, which is every position is an open position all the time, right? Jake Fromm is the quarterback. You look at what Fromm has done this year. You know, the record that he's had starting out, whatever it was, 10-0, 11-0. A loss to Auburn, a win against Georgia Tech. You finish the season 11-1. You whoop Auburn in the SEC championship game. You finish 12-1, SEC champions. A trip to the Rose Bowl in the playoffs. Jake Fromm is the quarterback. So barring injury, I don't see a way where Eason starts again at UGA. So you can't blame a kid with that much talent, that was that highly recruited, that lost his job really through no fault of his own. Lost his job through injury. Week 1, App State, first few minutes of the game. You can't really blame the kid for wanting maybe to transfer out, get a fresh start and an opportunity to get some playing time somewhere. Where will he go? I don't know. I thought maybe Michigan. But Michigan has already locked up Shea Patterson, I think it was, from Ole Miss as a transfer in. So very unlikely they would then want to transfer in another a highly rated quarterback like that with Eason. I'm thinking West Coast. He's from there, from the state of Washington. I'm thinking West Coast, UCLA, Southern Cal, Arizona State, Washington, something like that. That would be my gut on that. It's nothing that I've heard from anybody or any inside information or anything like that anyone has told me. That's just sort of my gut feeling. And I think one way or the other, transfer or not, we'll find something out here sooner rather than later. If not by the Rose Bowl game, then very shortly after the Rose Bowl game or the national title game if we win the Rose Bowl game. I think he'll make a decision quick and could even transfer spring semester, meaning he would leave Athens in January. Stephen Roberts says he thinks Fields will sit for 1 year. I disagree. I don't think he'll start, especially if Eason transfers. Fields will be our only scholarship backup quarterback. The other, Stetson Bennett and those guys are walk-ons. And I think they'll have some packages for Fields to play right away. Red zone situations and certain packages at different points in the game for Fields to come in and get some playing time right away. Zeus just locked in and signed with UGA. Yeah, there was never any doubt there for me anyway. UGA's had a good day so far. We missed out on Micah Parsons, but that was 50-50 at best. Most people assumed he would end up at Penn State, and that's what happened. But we've locked down everybody else that we've wanted. We haven't lost any major commitments at this point yet. Locked up everyone that we wanted, everyone that was committed, that is signed so far, has signed with UGA. So that's good news. 2 big ones coming up this afternoon, Cox and Mays. And I will be here for both of those commitments. Those are around 2:30 or 3 this afternoon. I do have to stop this stream here pretty soon, though. YouTube has a 4-hour limit on live streams, and I'm coming up on that limit here. And there's not a whole lot going on right now with signings. What I'm probably going to do is go ahead and end this stream here in the next couple of minutes, and we will start another one this afternoon. I think it's 2:30. I think is when the afternoon commitments start. So you got, I think it's Cade Mays at 2:30 and Cox at 3. I may have those flip-flopped, but it is 2:30 and 3. So we'll probably start the stream back up maybe around 2 or 2:15 if that sounds okay with everybody. So yeah, let's do that. Let's go ahead and end this off here. And I'll be back this afternoon, and we'll do another round, a round 2, the Uncle Lou Show, a signing day special. Thanks again, everyone, for watching this morning. Exciting day for Georgia and for every team, really. I know there's a lot of fans of other teams that watch Uncle Lou, and this is an exciting day for everybody. In the college football world, signing day is like Christmas, right? You know, you have all your recruits and your high school kids or whatever that you're watching for months and months and months, and, you know, you want them to come to your school. You want them so bad, and then signing day comes, and it's like Christmas, right? You finally get to open up your presents, and hopefully you get everything that you wanted or most of what you wanted. And that's kind of how signing day is for college football. Christmas time is coming up. Uncle Lou's got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. They got a list a mile long of things they want. You know, you compare the list of what they want to the list of what they're going to get, and some of it they'll get, some of it they won't. And signing day is sort of the same way. So, again, thanks to everybody for watching, not just the UGA fans, but everybody. There was a lot of Florida fans on here with the Emory Jones thing. That's some Alabama fans, just fans from all over. Thank you for watching. Uncle Lou will be back this afternoon for these afternoon commitments. The 2 big ones of interest for UGA, Cade Mays, Brenton Cox, happening around 2:30 and 3 respectively. So I'll be back on for you guys around 2 or 2:15. Have a great morning, and thanks for watching.